Khan hovered in the air at least 100 meters high in the air, while in front of him was the ginormous figure of Axel, who was at least 250 meters tall after he transformed and revealed his true form as a monstrous creature. Just now, he figured out the second divine ability Axel had known as Soul Eater. It could allow the user to absorb souls from recently deceased saints to gain an extra life. However, the biggest flaw of Soul Eater was that it had the condition of needing a dead saint. Not something you see happening often. This was one of the reasons why Khan didn't choose it, but for Axel, it was the best choice. Right now, Khan's team killed 7 saints from Hero's party to pressure the Hero of Fire by cornering him with their numbers and forcing his hand to give up the artifact. But eventually, because of the Soul Eater ability, he ended up empowering Axel instead. And now, Axel finally finished his transformation. A 250 meters tall blood-red body, 6 massive arms, 2 of which were coming out of the joints of the massive bat-like wings on his back. Most of Axel's body was covered bone-like exoskeleton, which had a gushing stream of blood constantly moving about on the surface. The head had no eyes but a skull with winged ears. On his chest and stomach was a red glowing hole that looked like it was a pit of fire. The red flesh had more than 10,000 small faces which disappeared after he completed his transformation. From the waist region, it was all skeletons, and the last 2 remaining arms grew out of the monster head made of bones and flesh that appeared below the waist. A 100-meter-tall spine-like bony tail landed on the ground and shook the surroundings, while on the main body itself were thousands of small pores leaking drops of blood. As the blood coagulated with time, massive blood drops, each sizing that of a water bucket, landed on the ground. At this moment, Khan finally amassed enough space force, and using Quicksilver, he quickly appeared just 2 kilometers away from Axel's 10-meter-tall head. Dimensional cut. Khan took the opportunity to cut off Axel's head with an instantaneous slashing attack that could cut through all creations in the world. Thud! A cloud of dust rose as Axel's head dropped on the ground. Crack! The following second, one of the 7 white formations that previously absorbed the souls of fallen saints shattered and released the white orb it held. Axel just lost 1 soul that could be counted as one of his lives. "Ronin!" shouted Khan, and using Shadow Swap, Khan switched positions with the Spirit Assassin subordinate. A blue light emitted from Ronin's body, and he finally used his exclusive legendary rank ability that no one else had. Soul Collector. This was the ability he inherited from Vilgax, who was a spirit monster. Soul Collector allowed Ronin to steal and absorb souls from fallen enemies in battle to increase his levels and strength. Shwoa! The blue light formed into an ethereal demonic arm and quickly pulled the soul that was sealed in the middle of the formation. Axel just lost 1 life, and the soul was being snatched away by Ronin. The Thanatos subordinate quickly absorbed the soul in his body, and using the invisibility and phase shift skills, he disappeared from the spot. 5 seconds later, he appeared 5 kilometers away and started absorbing the soul properly. "You bastard!" A loud and malicious voice thundered in the battlefield, and one of the arms grabbed the fallen head. Soon, it placed the detached head on the neck that had a fountain of blood spurting out. In front of everyone, the head returned to its previous appearance, and there wasn't even a single trace left. So he has some kind of instant regeneration ability. Analyzed Khan from a distance. "Good. Now you've infuriated me. Let's see how you can survive against my army then," spoke Axel, and from his 6 arms, numerous blood droplets were flung in the nearby 10-kilometer radius. Khan and the group quickly retreated and stood away from this shower of blood as a precaution. Howl! Roar! Scra! Hurrah! Screech! One after another, multiple roars and war cries filled the surroundings as hundreds of thousands of monstrous creatures that none of them had ever seen before started coming to life from every single drop of blood that was thrown off from Axel's palms. Holy Mother of Alucard! Is he creating all these soldiers from his blood? How many people did this bastard kill to summon so many monsters? Wondered Khan, and tried to remember if this was anything familiar. Wait! That's the Blood Monarch divine ability! Just then, Rathnar exclaimed in Khan's mind. I have fought a hero who could use this skill. The user of this divine ability can create monsters just from a single drop of blood. The more blood they have stored in their bodies, the more blood monsters they can create. He explained, "Damn it. You're right. I saw this one too. But there was a limit due to the amount of blood one can hold because of their species. But for Axel, who isn't a human and eats the flesh of others and probably drinks their blood too, this is a perfect choice. However, that's not all. You might not know this, old man. One of the hidden effects is that if an enemy is killed by his blood monsters, he can use their blood to create more monsters of the same quality. It gives him an absolute advantage in a large-scale battle. Added with his saint rank, enormous blood supply, and regeneration abilities, this guy has an endless supply of a monster army," said Khan, and a grim expression appeared on his face. Back then, Khan didn't choose it because it had to be the person's own blood, and the stronger he was, the collective strength each soldier will have. This divine ability heavily relied on the user's own blood quantity. This was unfavorable for many, but given Axel's species, whatever it was called, it was tailor-made for him. No wonder he didn't use this skill before in his human appearance. Only his original form has that much amount of blood to create this endless army. With this revelation, Khan and the group found out about 3 of Axel's divine abilities. However, their group wasn't afraid of the enemy. So what if he has an endless supply of army? We aren't lacking on our own either. A dubious plan formed in Khan's mind, and he spoke loudly, inviting 2 of his hard hitters, Cyril and Armin. "It's time for you to take the stage." Out of 8 times, Khan killed Axel once by using Dimensional Cut, his killing move. But now that Axel revealed another one of his divine abilities called Blood Monarch that allowed him to create a blood monster to attack the enemy force from a single drop of blood, a dubious plan formed in Khan's mind. Who said Khan had to fight Axel one-on-one just because both of them were chosen heroes? He had the advantage in numbers, so there was no reason for him to play fair against the guy who was already 10 times stronger than him based on his rank. Axel obviously had more divine abilities, so Khan was going to make up for their difference in his own way. The battlefield was now filled with more than 10 million monstrous creatures, each sizing at least 2 meters, and all of them looked like amalgamations of various species and appearances he had never seen before. Some had 3 arms and 5 legs, while some floated in the air without having wings. Apart from their blood-red bodies, there wasn't a single thing that resembled the creatures of Vantria. Khan could only deduce that these were the monsters from Axel's original world because the hero of fire himself wasn't a human or looked anything like what they had seen in this world. The Blood Monarch divine ability was indeed on par with the Necromancy divine ability. But there was a reason why Khan didn't choose it back then. And now, he was going to use the very flaw that made him discard this divine ability. "Cyril and Armin, it's time for you to take the stage." Khan called out the 2 subordinates, and they both appeared right beside him, gazing at tens of millions of monsters that were being created at a rapid pace and had encompassed around 20 kilometers of radius already. Yet there seemed no end to their numbers. "You know what to do," spoke Khan and gave them a nod. Both subordinates nodded and disappeared the next second. A few seconds later, Cyril took the east side and Armin took the west side of the monster army. "Vanessa, do not be surprised," said Khan to the 3rd princess through their communication artifact. Boom! Boom! A massive black pillar soaring in the sky appeared on the eastern end, while an explosion of green aura permeated the western side. Finally, a 100-meter-tall figure of an undead in a black cloak, for black feathered wings and a hood with a 10-meter-tall book along with an 80-meter-long black scythe appeared in the west. On the other end, a 100-meter-tall and 4-legged green-wood elemental creature, who appeared like an embodiment of nature itself, was revealed on the western side of this blood monster's army. Cyril and Armin had taken their Dark Summoner and Erdtree legendary rank true forms respectively. Vanessa and Axel were completely shocked from their respective positions, and without wasting another moment, the transformed generals acted on the spot. Crack! Crack! Cyril summoned a 10 kilometers wide archaic red formation that spread on the ground, and soon, the ground below shattered and thousands of undead skeletons and monsters started coming out. Thud! Thud! And as the spearheads leading them, Cyril's 6 guardians that he created in capital Rathna of Rocco's empire, whom he also used against the legendary monster Ashikvatika in Verlassen, came to be. Each of them sized over 50 meters in height, and all were comprised of thousands of bodies and bones. However, unlike some mindless monsters, they were created using peak grandmasters, and now, because of their size, they were already on par with a first-stage saint themselves in terms of skills and battle strength. This is what made Cyril a formidable opponent who had the abilities and skills to even kill a third-stage saint. And following the 6 guardians were the millions of undead monsters that were created using different species and fighting classes. In a way, Axel's army was now facing 7 saints on the eastern end. Rumble! Rumble! On the western end, Armin created even more Treants, tree sentinels and flying wood elemental creatures. This time, because he was in his true form, the range had expanded to 30 kilometers, which was basically the 60% of the entire battlefield, and thus, the total number of creatures he created was twice compared to when he fought Folka just half an hour ago. If Axel had an unending army of monsters at his beck and call, Khan's 2 generals didn't lose out in any way either. "Do it," spoke Khan, his voice being heard by both of them through their telepathic link. Bang! Shatter! Cyril launched his undead army that had proper weapons, armors, and battle formations. He himself used Shadow Blade Barrage skill using the Scythe of the Reaper that was one of the gifts from the deity of necromancy, launching thousands of 10-meter-long darkness elemental blades, cutting through 20 to 30,000 monsters with each wave easily. At this moment, Cyril looked like the personification of the Grim Reaper himself. The 6 guardians also killed 10 to 20,000 monsters with each of their attacks while facing millions of enemies from all sides. Armin, on the other hand, summoned more wood elemental creatures along with thousands of vines and roots coming out of the ground, decimating and engulfing the blood monsters in the ground while stabbing and binding them before they even moved. The flying monsters were taken care of by his own flying creatures. The hero of fire only created an army filled with bloodlust, but he couldn't control every single one of the monsters. The duo of Cyril and Armin, however, could. Even Axel, who was still creating way too many monsters, was rooted on the spot as the battle prowess of these two was dwarfing his own army. 20 minutes later, Khan was spectating the battle from afar as Vanessa floated beside him. The well-controlled armies of Cyril and Armin were equally matching Axel's blood monster army, killing them off easily while giving them no upper hand whatsoever. There was a reason why he chose the two to fight off against this divine ability. Because the army of undeads and wood elemental creatures by the 2 generals didn't have a single drop of blood in them. This way, Axel couldn't use the blood from fallen enemies to create more of his monsters at all. However, there was still no way to completely suppress Axel or his army either. I see. The key element is the blood of the fallen monsters that Axel is using to replenish his numbers again and again. This divine ability is just as broken as the ones I have, spoke Khan. Then cut off the source, said Rathnar in Khan's mind. Khan thought for a second and smirked as another plan formed in his mind. Get ready to make a surprise entrance, said Khan as he called out the next general who was going to overturn the battle. Jugram. The battle between Axel and Khan's 2 generals was at its peak, but in a way, it was still a standstill situation because the number of enemies remained the same as time went by. The root cause of it was the blood of the dead blood monsters that Axel was using again and again. This function was something even Khan didn't know of, as the only thing he could link it to was Axel's own physiology that allowed this change in the divine ability named Blood Monarch. Give up, Salvatore. Your posses can't ever stop me, spoke Axel through his skull mouth. I have an army. Khan, on the other end, smiled and replied in a coy tone, we have a Jugram. Boom! Before Axel could react, behind him, a massive crimson-red burst of hellfire rose and quickly burned down the surrounding 1-kilometer region just with its scorching flames. Roar! An ear-deafening and ground-shattering roar of a ginormous creature sent shockwaves in the surroundings as a 500-meter-tall creature appeared just 5 kilometers away from Axel. 2 enormous horns on fire, a massive demonic face with red eyes, ripped and muscular arms that had an exterior layer like a bony armor came to be. the entire plant life, trees, grasslands, and the blood monsters that were caught in this hellfire in the 2-kilometer radius area started burning on the spot. Vanessa, who watched this from behind Khan, was flabbergasted on the spot as well. Axel already knew of Jugram's origin, but learning was different from experiencing in the end. And now, the former finally saw a creature that was twice his own size. Without further ado, Jugram quickly activated Hell Domain, and the temperature of the surrounding 5 kilometers radius rose to 500 degrees Celsius. Also, all the monsters had 75% of their strength and physical defenses lowered under the perimeter of the Hell Domain. In just a few seconds, a few 100,000 blood monsters had their bodies incinerated as they instantly turned into ash. Not a single drop of blood remained in their bodies. "Bastard!" bellowed Axel in his eerie voice and launched 5 massive orbs of fire. Bang! Bang! These fire orbs were enough to nuke 5 kilometers of the region with a single strike. But instead of killing the Hellblazer general, Jugram's body quickly absorbed them from the point of impact. The sages I only told Axel about the generals and their true forms, but not their abilities they didn't display before. Little did the hero of fire know that Jugram had a unique skill of his own, and that was King of Fire. It was a saint-rank passive ability that made Jugram immune to all types of fire attribute attacks and helped him absorb such spells and attacks in order to turn them into his physical attributes and increase his stats. The maximum rise in stats could be up to 500%. Means Jugram would be able to become 5 times stronger in time based on the fire orb attacks Axel was launching to kill him. However, this wasn't the end at all. Jugram then started jumping from one place to another, causing a wanton massacre, and his other passive ability started doing its work. Bloodstorm. This was SSS rank passive ability that allowed Jugram to drain out the blood from dead beings during a battle and use it as a high-pressure bloodstorm for 2 kilometers. Another effect was that he could create any form of weapons using the blood by mixing his aura and world energy in it. But as fate wouldn't have it, the already powerful Jugram, who was enough to massacre an army of millions by himself, had another passive ability just for a battle of this scale. Chaos Emperor. Another one of Jugram's saint-rank passive abilities was doing its work at this moment. The more enemies Jugram killed and their blood was absorbed by him in a 5-kilometer radius, the more strength, defense, and attack buff will be gained by the Diablo's general over time. Right in front of Axel's eyes, Jugram started absorbing the gushing blood from the flailing bodies of the blood monsters and created over 1,020-meter-long giant swords, each of which looked identical to Ares. Slash! Rumble! Crackle! Unlike Cyril and Armin, who had to be stationary in their respective positions to use their skills and command their armies, Jugram was a frontline warrior. He charged into the battlefield without a second thought, killing thousands as he turned their bodies to cinders just with his presence alone and the massive giant swords created from the blood of the enemies massacred millions within 20 kilometers radius. At the same time, the blood that wasn't absorbed by Jugram was turning into smoke. So in a way, Axel was losing his own blood and battle prowess continuously while having no supply of extra blood to create more monsters for his army. Axel was thoroughly infuriated because Jugram was not only massacring his forces the most but also stole his supply while Armin and Cyril were dwindling his numbers. If Axel had the blood, he could create more blood monsters, but if the blood was sucked away by another entity, he'd be losing a good amount of his firepower, let alone affect his physique at the same time. Half an hour later, Jugram obliterated more than 20 million monsters just on his own and finally received a total of 10 times buff using King of Fire and Chaos Emperor. Now, he was comparable to a legit third-stage saint and equally matched against Axel in terms of physical stats and strength. "Do it!" commanded Khan. Jugram quickly activated Frenzy Berserker skill that gave him 5 times increase in strength for half an hour. Shrill! Even Axel felt a sense of impending doom as he retreated 20 kilometers away, escaping Jugram's wrath because he could tell that if he stayed there any longer, Jugram would have ripped him in 2 parts. Axel had a divine ability, but Khan had 3 legendary rank monster generals who had the abilities to counter it by collaborating. Blood Monarch was a divine ability that could be used to fight and win against even an empire's entire army if Axel was a higher ranked saint. But now, The three generals of Khan had made it completely useless in a battle. "I'll kill you, you bastards!" bellowed Axel, no longer having that confident expression compared to when the battle started. "You've forced my hand," he said in a grim voice and ordered all of his minions to return. Soon, he used bloodline-specific ability and mixed all the blood monsters together. Just 5 minutes later, while Axel avoided getting hit by Jugram attacks and giant swords, another monstrous creature was formed by Axel that was over 1 kilometer in height alone. A ginormous monster made of thousands of human skulls and rotten flesh appeared on the battlefield, and Axel shouted in a victorious voice, "You can't defeat me." "I know," spoke Khan with a firm voice. Boom! A massive explosion of brown aura erupted behind Khan, and Axel was shocked to his core, while the former spoke with a wide grin on his face. "But he can." Axel pulled a killer move and created a gigantic creature as big as Vanessa during her primordial creature form. Now, millions of his blood monsters had unified and turned into a single entity. Before everyone, a ginormous creature with thousands of small heads, skulls of women and rotten flesh that revealed a pungent stench came to be. But before Axel could revel in the fact that he now had a helping hand which had the collective strength of his entire blood monsters army, a burst of brown aura erupted behind Khan, and a massive titanic being, equal in size to the summoned creature, he had also made an appearance. "Rarea! Growl!" The skull monster roared and growled in anger as it sensed an enemy behind Khan. A massive 1 kilometer tall titan with 2 large horns, golden yellow eyes, whose outer body seemed to be made of hard and black metallic mineral, stood in front of everyone. Under this armor-like body that covered his entire torso, shoulders, arms, thighs, and everything below the knees, was stone-like skin as if it was made from hard rocks. Blackwell plunged his right hand into the ground and, using mineral transmutation skill, he concentrated and greatly compressed minerals and hard stones present in the ground to create an 800-meter-tall battle axe. Vanessa too was shocked to see that the fellow apprentice of Khan, who trained under Throck, was another one of the monstrous creatures like the first 3 saints who engaged against Axel's army. "What happened? The sages I didn't tell you?" asked Khan in a mocking tone. One of the downsides of the sage's eye was that it revealed the truth about what was in front of it. Thus, Axel knew that all of Khan's subordinates were actually monsters in humanoid form, but it never revealed their true appearances or their skills. And the second but the most detrimental demerit was that the sage's eye could be activated only once in 24 hours. After that, the user will have to wait for another 24 hours to activate it again. Axel already used it today, so he no longer had the ways to know about the battle prowess of Blackwell in his Titan form. "Attack!" ordered Khan and got out of the way. As if acting on instinct, the blood monster itself charged at Blackwell. The latter on the other end braced for an impact as he used the battle axe to cover his front. Bang! Shockwaves and tremors resounded in the ground as the humanoid-shaped monster hit its fist against Blackwell's weapon. Crack! Crack! The impact from this monster's hit was so strong that even Blackwell was pushed off a kilometer away, destroying the lush greenery on the ground. "Master, it's comparable to a third-stage saint," he informed Khan. "I see. This guy could create another strong being of the same rank using the blood monster army. It's like having another third-stage saint fighting beside him. Alright, you can use that move," ordered Khan. In the following moments, instead of directly engaging it, Blackwell shoved the battle axe into the ground and started running around the monster while creating deep crevices. Thud! Thud! Shatter! The ground shattered and the crevices spread even wider as the Blood Titan followed Blackwell. Little did it know that it was actually helping the enemy side. For the next 10 minutes, Axel rejoiced after seeing the current situation while evading and dodging Jugram's attacks, who too was close to losing the strength buff of his skill. Axel's true form was simply too agile for Jugram to catch up to, and after 20 minutes of chasing, Jugram lost the effect of the Frenzy Berserker skill. And because he was no longer engaged in a battle and hadn't killed any enemies in the past 20 minutes, he was losing the Chaos Emperor and King of Fire buff as well. Another 10 minutes passed and finally, Jugram was brought back to his original strength. "Get back. Blackwell is almost done," commanded Khan from 10 kilometers away. Crack! Finally, Blackwell's battle-axe crumbled from a powerful hit from the Blood Titan, and the latter gave out a victorious roar. But instead of getting disgruntled, Blackwell let out a smirk as his arms plunged into solid ground. Earth-style jutsu, deep prison. His ginormous figure spoke loudly. Crack! Shatter! Before the Blood Titan took another step, a deep and massive hole appeared in the battlefield. Without even having a moment to react, the enemy monster fell into this deep hole that was even longer than its height. Stab! Stab! Hundreds of earth and mineral spears protruded from the ground and stabbed into its body. Its humongous size now turned into its biggest weakness, as it couldn't even turn around or do anything to protect itself. Unlike the Blood Titan, Blackwell had fighting skills of his own, and he was using Marauder King skill at the monster to reduce 80% of the enemy's defenses, causing it to suffer deep injuries. The enemy monster haphazardly tried to get out of the deep pit, and Blackwell didn't stop it either, because he had another killer move ready. Since the past 30 minutes, he had been carving up the ground with that battle-axe of his while running away from the Blood Titan. And there was a big reason for that. Blackwell then clasped his hands, and a massive wave of brown aura spread across the surroundings. Soon, the shattered ground, massive boulders and minerals spread across the 10 kilometers region started floating in the air, as he, the Kronos General, used his biggest trump card. Terrain manipulation. Rumble. Rumble. Gigantic pieces of earth and boulders from the destroyed terrain started converging together and formed various shaped weapons that were sized a few hundred meters, made of hard stones and compressed earth. Thud! The Blood Titan finally managed to get out of the deep pit, but before it could react, Blackwell ordered all these weapons to attack the Blood Titan. Stab! Slash! Rip! One by one, more than 20 of these weapons stabbed and punctured the gigantic monster, making big holes all over its body, and streams of blood started gushing out like the water released from a dam. Roar! It roared in agony, but before it could suffer more, Blackwell deformed and changed the shapes of these weapons after they were done incapacitating the enemy. Whoosh! Swoosh! In the following seconds, the 10-kilometer region started cracking, and soon, all of the terrain coagulated around these massive clumps of soil and stone. Bang! All of the summoned clumps quickly surrounded and covered the Blood Titan. Forget fighting back. It could no longer move an inch and right in front of Axel. A 1-kilometer tall and round sphere made of stone and soil, resembling the moon itself, had completely encapsulated one of his biggest trump cards. Crack! Massive cracks formed over the sphere that buried the Blood Titan inside itself under immense pressure as Blackwell used his telekinesis ability called terrain manipulation. Splurt! Axel threw up a mouthful of blood, and even his figure staggered, almost his standing. Because at this moment, the Titan from the enemy side, aka Blackwell, had buried and killed the Blood Titan inside an earth coffin. Blackwell performed live entombment on the Blood Titan with his terrain manipulation ability, and Axel threw up a chunk of black blood as a result after the Titan died. However, this wasn't going to be the end of his misery. A backlash from the divine ability? Asked Rathnar. No. Blood Monarch divine ability is dependent on blood supply, but there are no backlashes on the user. Looks like that monster was Axel's own creation. Must be his bloodline ability, and now that the monster is dead, he is receiving the aftershock of the skill getting destroyed. Responded Khan. Good for us. Now get rid of it, said the Peak Saint's soul. Khan quickly appeared on the left side of this massive 1-kilometer tall spherical boulder that had the collective blood of all the monsters Axel created using the Blood Monarch divine ability. Swoosh! The very next second, a black shadow instantly formed a thick layer of coating and spread across this massive sphere rapidly, giving Axel no chance to retract or call back the blood that was locked inside the body of the Blood Titan. Shwua! You! What have you done? Shouted Axel as he started throwing up more black blood. Nothing much. I'm just collecting some quality food for the mosquitoes in my house. I bet they'd love it, said Khan nonchalantly. Just now, Khan pulled the entire structure inside his dimensional domain, cutting off its connection with Axel so the latter would lose his best weapon so far. Damn it! Soul Eater, Sage's Eye, and now Blood Monarch. 3 of my divine abilities are already useless. I can't use chronovision either since it's only useful to run through the past events. The last one, I still have 7 more lives now. So only that one can keep me alive till I manage to kill this hero of darkness and all of his allies. Thought Axel. At this moment, Axel lost his advantage of 3 of his divine abilities because Sage's eye was used up for the day. The 3 subordinates of Khan could perfectly nullify the use of Blood Monarch. And Ronan could snatch away the souls of his fallen Saint rank party members that he was using as a source for extra lives. And to put the nail in the coffin, Blackwell already killed one of his biggest trump cards, which was like having another 3rd stage Saint on the battlefield. However, he could still salvage the blood to keep on fighting. But this really wasn't his day, as Khan somehow made it all disappear under a black shadow, cutting off the connection with his blood bank completely. Crack! Crack! Axel's true form that maintained a distance of 10 kilometers from everyone started shrinking back, and within 20 seconds, Axel reverted to his human appearance once again. The main reason being that in Vantria, his true form had the restriction of an enormous blood supply that he could also use for Blood Monarch. But now that Khan took away his main source and had allies to get rid of the remaining blood even if he recovered it, he could no longer maintain his true form. Otherwise, with the constant loss of blood, he would lose his ability to fight. To think that a wretched, pathetic weakling like you would force my hand to this extent. Tell me, Salvatore, do you dare fight me one-on-one? Asked Axel with a scornful gaze towards Khan. Nope. Khan declined on the spot without even thinking twice. What? Are you a coward then? Where is your honor as a man? Shouted Axel, trying to provoke the enemy. Do I look like an idiot to you? You ganged up on Vanessa with 8 saints, including yourself. Where was your honor back then? Rebuked Khan. Now that you're on the losing end, you're resorting to the childish method of riling me with such cliché provocations. And on top of it, you have 7 more lives while I have only 1. What kind of dumbass would agree to such a hopeless and unfair fight? He said loudly. Just then, the woman behind Khan spoke. Ha! What a loser. Acting like he's some big shot while using a deceitful tactic. Aren't you a chosen hero? So much of a man you are. Fight him one-on-one with your life on the line if you dare. Vanessa clamored, her voice filled with disdain reaching Axel's ears. You bastard! I'll show you who's the real man when I turn you into my plaything and make you submit to me. Just wait till I kill this bastard and capture you, shouted Axel with a gaze filled with wrath. Good job. He's a textbook misogynist, so this provocation hit the mark. Spoke Khan to Vanessa through the artifact. But can you fight him? You will have to kill him 7 more times. And if my information isn't wrong, the hero of fire has 5 divine abilities. We have seen only 3 so far. Said Vanessa. That's not the problem. I have my ways to kill him. What I'm worried about is the type of his divine abilities. Do you have any idea about it? Asked Khan in return. No. They're all well-guarded secrets and only the Pope knows about them. It's a rule set for every generation of summoned heroes. Replied Vanessa truthfully. Khan nodded and then looked back at Axel. All right, shitface. I'll take up on your challenge. We will have a 1 versus 1 battle of our own. Declared Khan. Axel's face turned happier after hearing that statement. However, his joy didn't last for long. But after you have only 1 life left, he said with an evil smirk. Swoosh. Swoosh. Boom. Rumble. One after another, all of the remaining subordinates started revealing horrifying oppressive auras, while the 4 generals also reverted to their humanoid appearances. The 50 kilometers radius battlefield turned into a destroyed terrain as these beings who were akin to natural disasters on their own targeted their killing intent at Axel. All right, boys, it's time, said Khan. The main boss of this group let out a grin as he continued with a tyrannical voice, to use the Pendragon formation. As soon as Khan revealed his intentions to let his allies gang up on Axel, the latter lost the color on his face. Because Axel himself had experienced their strength by watching them kill off his group members and even facing Jugram in combat, who somehow even became someone equally matched in strength against him. The hero of fire no longer had a smug or confident face as before. Damn it! Will I have to use those 3 methods? No. The first 2, I can manage. But the last one will cost me greatly since I'm not even a peak saint yet. Thought Axel as he ran a few calculations on the counter moves he could take. All right, boys, it's time to use the Pendragon formation. Khan's voice reverberated in the surroundings. Without waiting for a grand reveal, all the generals in Omega let out a grin, and soon 7 different archaic formations appeared above their bodies, each containing their different colors and auras with their respective owners. 7 massive pillars rose and formed a net that spread across the 20 kilometers radius of the battlefield. And finally, 5 dragon heads appeared and formed a pentagram-shaped barrier around this battlefield. System, scan the newly upgraded Pendragon formation for me. I need to see what changes Throck made other than what he told me. Commanded Khan. Scanning complete. Pendragon formation has been upgraded to legendary rank. Following are the effects. All the targets sharing the linking runes through the clothes, armors and weapons will get a buff of additional physical stats by 3 times and magical abilities effectiveness by 2 times. At least 5 of the targets should be present for this formation to become active. The current range of this formation is only 20 kilometers radius. The range shall increase based on the levels and ranks of all the targets. The mean average of the levels and ranks for the targets will increase the range and buff effects under this archaic formation. Each user will grant an additional 7.5% increase in all the stats of the users. Currently, 7 users are activating the formation, granting a total of 52.5% increase in all of their physical and magical stats. Reported the system. Good. Means they're basically comparable to an intermediate second stage saint even without using any of their boosts and abilities. Throck really outdid himself. When all of their levels and ranks rise, this formation will also increase in range, and so will their physical stats. This is like having the best team battle effect. Only the dragon's body can sustain such tremendous pressure, and since all of our armors and weapons are made from it, it provides a long-term help in a group battle. Thought Khan with a content expression. Because this made his entire group strong enough to face higher-ranked saints easily. Alright, all of you can start. If anyone dies, I'll quickly revive them. Just be careful of him using that, ordered Khan. There was a reason why Khan personally didn't participate in activating the Pendragon formation. Because even up until now, he had no clue of the 2 divine abilities Axel had, and the most threatening one of them, Axel's divine weapon. Hey old fart, why isn't he using his divine weapon? Asked Khan to Rathnar. I already told you, kid. Using a divine weapon requires your soul essence. You should know how important soul essence is. The stronger and higher ranked you are, the more restriction on using the soul essence is lifted. Based on his rank, even the current hero of fire can use only 30% of his soul essence. And anyone below the 5th stage saint using soul essence forcefully will cause a great backlash. One might even lose their rank and levels. Replied Rathnar. What? You didn't tell me about the last part before. Spoke Khan. Do you have your divine weapon to use it? Asked Rathnar. No, replied Khan. That makes my point. Said Rathnar sarcastically. Khan rolled his eyes and then focused on the present moment. Because what Rathnar explained was something Khan personally experienced once. In the past, the heroes I fought didn't use their divine weapons until absolutely necessary. You can't use a weapon of mass destruction that can obliterate everything in hundreds of kilometers easily without having to pay a price. He iterated again. Back when Khan willingly sacrificed 10% of his soul to save Cassandra, Armin extracted that amount of soul essence out of his body. As a result, Khan lost 20 levels and his ability to level up for an entire month as repercussions. And he wasn't even a saint back then. With rise in ranks and levels, the aftereffects would be more detrimental to him. And if divine weapons relied on the summoned hero/heroine's soul essence, then it was not a weapon that someone could use without paying a great cost. But this condition was also logical in many ways. Otherwise, a chosen hero with a divine weapon would be an unstoppable force even to someone like other higher-leveled saints and dragons in this world. The world of Vantria didn't give free access to unimaginable power without following the law of equivalent exchange. And this seemed to be the reason why Axel still hadn't used his divine weapon even now, because he was afraid of losing his all-over battle strength and even risk dropping in a rank. "All right, force him to the corner," commanded Khan with a somber expression. "On my lead," spoke Omega, and he charged at Axel with both of his katanas in hands. Clang! Raijin and Kojin clashed against Axel's sword and started pressuring the hero of fire. Both of them were peak third-stage saints, so Axel had no advantage over here. On top of it, Omega was more skilled than him. Sparks flew in the air for a few minutes, while a scarlet-red and a crimson-red aura filled the battlefield within 5 kilometers radius as the two opponents clashed against each other. "Now!" he ordered, and quickly activated Gravity Domain, enhancing his own strength while limiting Axel's agility and dexterity, just like how he did while facing Azarog. His 15 kilometers wide translucent domain had only come into existence, but this wasn't the end. Boom! Jugram also activated Hell Domain from the side, and the 5 kilometers radius was filled with hellfire. "Idiots! I am invulnerable to all kinds of fires in this world. What the hell is this hellfire going to do?" mocked Axel as he sent Omega flying using his own strength-enhancing skill. "Is that so? Then look above you," snickered Jugram as he pointed his left forefinger above. In the air, Oliver was charging neath bow, and at the same time, dozens of typhoons and wind blades surrounded the Hell Domain. At this moment, Oliver had also used his Sky Domain, even forcing more physical restrictions on Axel's body and his movement. Jugram's hellfire was just a distraction. The Hell Domain also reduced 50% of the enemy's physical defense. And Axel was a third-stage saint, so they had to bring him to their level first. "Heaven's wrath!" shouted Oliver. "Vajra!" Before Axel could even move a muscle, a massive 50-meter lightning bolt shot down from neath bow's phantom. Oliver was not messing around and planned to obliterate Axel just like how he killed Garak, the Snakekin tank. Boom! 5 kilometers of the battlefield was turned into smithereens as Vajra struck Axel, while he was completely oppressed under the effect of 3 different domains. The others had already moved out of the line of fire, and finally, a 100-meter deep pit was revealed to everyone. Axel's charred body with a massive hole in his stomach was revealed. Shatter! Just then, another one of the white floating formations shattered as the next soul was released. Swoosh! Ronan appeared out of his invisibility mode and captured the escaped soul just like before when Khan killed Axel using the dimensional cut. "2 down," said Khan. Shwoom! Shwoom! Crackle! The charred body of the hero of fire started recovering its vitality as the Soul Eater divine ability provided Axel with another massive supply of life force, reviving and completely healing him on the spot in just a dozen seconds. This was a procedure none of them could interfere or attack those incorporeal formations. Thus, they had no choice but to watch and let it run its course. "You bastards! I'll rip you APA!" shouted Axel. Slash! Before he could retort and curse everyone properly. The 3 domains were still active and Axel's body stopped moving. Omega had used gravity imprisonment skills and activated moonlight armor while Axel was being revived. And the latter didn't even get to complete his sentence before Omega slashed open Axel in 2 vertical parts, killing him instantly. Another formation shattered and Ronan captured the 3rd soul. As usual, he disappeared using phase shift and invisibility skills, awaiting the next opportunity. Vanessa, who saw this scene from behind Khan, was flabbergasted and had her eyes wide open. She had fought against Axel herself and was perfectly aware of the latter's strength and defense. Because of his invulnerability to all kinds of fires in this world, she couldn't even oppress him in battle. Yet the 3rd-stage saint, the hero of fire of this generation of summoned heroes, was getting absolutely, brutally massacred. First Oliver and then Omega killed Axel with Vajra and White Fang Strike respectively. The former was a 50-meter-long lightning bolt comprised of hundreds of lightning bolts, while the latter was a gravity law attack skill that was only second to Khan's dimensional cut. After the hero of fire died for the 3rd time, Ronan collected and absorbed the escaped soul again using Soul Collector. At this moment, Ronan's body was going under tremendous changes, but the spirit assassin willingly halted his progress. Stealing the souls of the saints Axel was using as extra lives was a precautionary move made by Khan. Because Soul Eater definitely had some more uses and Khan didn't want to take risks and allow Axel to get any more advantages. Who knew if he could use Soul Eater to control these souls and regain more lives? If he could, then it would be a big problem for them. Based on the appearances of the souls, they released a very distinguished aura and seemed to have a lot of soul essence themselves since they belonged to saints. Blood Monarch was already too OP. If Axel had risen to peak saint rank, the army would be many times stronger, and who knew what kind of powerful monsters he could create. Even his subordinates might have had to face trouble, because if even a dozen of the blood monsters were on their level, they would have eventually lost after a long-drawn battle because nobody had an infinite supply of mana and world energy. They didn't have a peak saint's core like Khan to use as a source. However, Axel chose that ability for futuristic purposes, and he hadn't expected to find and fight Khan here when he planned to capture Vanessa. And luckily, Khan's crew had abilities to counter his divine ability, because having extra lives was no joke. But with Ronin's help alone, they could overcome the Soul Eater divine ability. Thus, Khan also had no plans to give Axel any leeway. Why give your enemy more firepower when you can take away their every possible move? Arg! Groaned Axel after being revived again. His indignant expression revealed his infuriated mind, but currently, he was thoroughly suppressed. These runts. They dare kill me like some random goon? I'm the goddamn hero of fire. And why are there 3 of them with saint domains? Even I don't have one, and neither did Azarog. The sages, I didn't reveal these skills at all. Cursed Axel in his mind as he felt humiliated. Crackle! Crackle! Oliver summoned a thunderstorm using his abilities as a Thunderbird monster, and Axel, who was entrapped inside the effects of the 3 domains, still couldn't break through despite using his own saint pressure. And whenever he tried to move, Omega was straight up coming his way. Compared to others, Omega was too fast even for him, and the 3 domains had already greatly suppressed his body. Cling! Cling! However, suddenly, Axel's entire body froze again, and this time, it wasn't Omega but another member of Khan's subordinates. Omega had just used gravity imprisonment, so he needed some time due to skill cooldown. But there was another member who could temporarily freeze a weakened enemy. Void Realm. Under a 5 kilometers radius pitch-black dome, the hero of fire couldn't even bat an eye as Cyril suddenly appeared 1 kilometer in front of him. The Dark Summoner didn't make any grand movements and summoned Book of the Damned and Chains of Judgment just like before. With the combination of 2 gifts from Deity of Necromancy along with the bonus effects of the Pendragon formation, his overall strength rose to an intermediate 2nd stage saint. Only a bit weaker than Axel. Stab! 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 18 black chains made of pure dark magic stabbed into Axel's body, including his private part, as his entire physique's defenses were now negligible in front of their group because of the 3 domains. Rip! Axel couldn't even scream in agony as his most prized possession was pulled off by a chain under Cyril's order. Even Vanessa had averted her eyes because the scene seemed too cruel even to her. But Khan and the group weren't bothered in the slightest, as they had a history of torturing people since their time in Flavit City. This wasn't something new or noteworthy for them at all. Rip! Rip! One after another, Axel was ripped and torn apart in small different places as Cyril mercilessly killed the hero of fire. Darkness had an advantage over fire in terms of elemental hierarchy. Thus, Axel couldn't even resist or scream as he died another gruesome death while his entrails, lungs, limbs, and prized jewels still hovered in the sky, unable to move on their own. Shatter! The 4th white archaic formation shattered, and Ronin did what he was supposed to do. Why the hell isn't he using more fighting skills? Wondered Khan. Because so far, Axel only used the most obvious and rookie-level fighting skills, and most of them were dependent on brute strength as a 3rd stage saint. Why do you think I managed to kill so many heroes despite being weaker than them? These guys rely too much on their divine abilities and don't work hard to master combat skills and techniques. Although you have blessings from the war deity, you at least have your priorities straight when it comes to mastering and perfecting your fighting skills and abilities. This guy seems like he never worked hard enough to gain and raise the ranks of skills and techniques after he was summoned here. and obviously very few things from his world can work here since the laws of reality are different. Compared to heroes of my time, this guy is a rookie. Berated Rathnar. Even Khan understood that the first emperor was right. 2 minutes later, Axel was reborn again, and this time, it was Armin's turn. The Pathfinder-class general used Nirvana armor and Hermes staff effect to drain the entire life force out of Axel's body, who was frozen inside the Void Realm after being reborn. Axel's body turned into a husk and another soul formation shattered. With this, Axel had died for the 5th time. However, after Axel was brought to life again, the humiliation of being killed by Khan's lackeys had finally pushed him on the edge. All of you, I'm going to make every single one of you suffer far more than I have, proclaimed Axel, and hundreds of red runes appeared all over his body. Khan, get everyone out of there. He's going to summon him, shouted Vanessa with fear in her eyes. Summon who? Khan asked quickly. To his question, Vanessa had an aghast expression as she revealed with a terrified voice, the fire deity. Void Realm activation time ended and Axel could freely move again after getting killed for the 5th time. All of you, I'm going to make every single one of you suffer far more than I have, shouted the hero of fire, and multiple red runes appeared all over his body. As soon as Vanessa informed Khan about Axel trying to summon a deity, Khan quickly commanded, all of you, get out of the formation. His quick warning saved them all just in time, as without wasting another moment, all of them deactivated the Pendragon formation and created a distance of 15 kilometers. Master, he's sacrificing his entire life force and trying to summon something, informed Armin from his location as he noticed the changes. Vanessa, tell me about this quickly so I can form a plan, spoke Khan. Just the word deity was enough to get Khan alert because he had fought Valkyrie Brunhild, who too was a summoned deity herself. The condition is that only the Fireborn Imperial clan, the hero/heroine of fire, can summon the fire deity by sacrificing their entire soul and life force. There's also an ancient rank class called Deity Summoner where the one who unlocked that class can do it without sacrificing their soul. But there isn't anyone in the entire world in the past 300 years as far as I know, informed Vanessa. Little did Vanessa know that Cassandra had invoked that class, but there was no reason for Khan to reveal that to her. Old man, what kind of deity are we fighting here? Asked Khan to Rathnar, who was the most knowledgeable amongst them. One of my descendants, the 6th Empress of Rocco's Empire, had the deity summoner class 600 years ago. She had made a contract with 7 deities at her peak as a 7th stage saint. The fire deity wasn't one of them, but I have only heard of it once. The fire deity can help the summoner to rise by 1 rank for an hour. However, there will be restrictions on the summoned entity's overall strength as the deity's combat power is dependent upon the user. But I don't know what powers it has. We're lucky that Axel isn't a 5th stage saint. Otherwise, the deity would be able to use their own domain. And then, all of us be dead for sure, informed the peak saint with a somber expression. Vanessa, do you know about the deity's powers? Asked Khan the next second. Not exactly, but I read once that it can summon a great army for fire creatures that respawn very easily as long as the summoner's body is safe. She revealed. This bastard is cheating big time compared to us. He is using someone else's life force and soul to summon a deity. Even if he died, he'd be brought back to life because of the Soul Eater divine ability. Although there are few conditions and suitable circumstances to use them, he indeed thought of the best option in the long term while choosing his divine abilities, said Khan. But there's a limit, boy. He is only a 3rd stage saint, so the deity's power is restricted to a 4th stage peak saint, said Rathnar in Khan's mind, while Vanessa was unaware of a hidden existence in Khan's body. I can go to a peak 3rd stage saint at best. Omega has also used all of his killer moves twice already, and he will need hours to use them again. Nobody else is capable enough to fight a being comparable to a 4th stage saint here, replied Khan. He was quickly lost in thoughts as he tried to form a counter-strategy on the spot. Meanwhile, the 15 kilometers radius was filled with scalding heat, and everything had either incinerated or pulverized instantly. Even all the onlookers could feel the intense heat. Finally, when the massive pillar of fire subsided, a 1-kilometer-tall being with a massive greatsword, covered in armor from head to toe while having dark red fire being expelled from its body, was revealed to everyone. "That's the fire deity, Kagetsuchi," informed Vanessa. There was no outrageous burst of aura or an explosion, but the presence of this mighty persona was enough to everyone get a hint of what kind of entity they were facing. Compared to the Blood Titan, the fire deity was of the same size but looked more domineering, as if it was a tyrant king. "I guess I have no choice but to fight him myself, because the rest will die just from this heat alone," spoke Khan. "So you summoned me, Axel. You're the first hero of fire to do this. And here I thought my lord, God Hetrax, chose a stronger candidate this time. What a disappointment." A jarring and authoritative tone filled the 20 kilometers radius instantly. "You'd understand why I did it so. See that guy? That's the new hero of darkness," spoke Axel, who floated inside the chest region of this summoned deity, similar to how Cassandra once occupied a tiara on Valkyrie Brunhild's head. "Oh ho! What a pleasant news to hear. I guess I can give God of Darkness a payback on behalf of my master," spoke Kagetsuchi, who had 2 demonic horns coming out of his head. "Ha ha ha! He has 3 divine abilities created by 3 different gods. What a fool! And he also received the blessings from Kravel," spoke Kagetsuchi just after a glance at Khan. The latter was frozen on the spot because his secret was so easily out. "I have a score to settle with the war deity. I guess I'll get even by killing him. The 8th hero of darkness screwed us all over. Now it's time they lose their last chance and pay us back for the last time." His overbearing voice resounded throughout the burning battlefield. Before everyone's eyes, the fire from his body spread across the 20 kilometers radius, and in just a dozen seconds, over 5 million armored fire soldiers equipped with weapons, armors while having battle formations appeared and gave off a very strong aura. Although lacking in numbers, this army was many times stronger than what Axel summoned using Blood Monarch. "Master, I'll take care of the army. I can withstand their fire without a problem, and I'm better suited for a large group battle," spoke Jugram. Other subordinates were out of question here already because of the fire spread on the battlefield. "Good. At least we 2 can face them head-on," said Khan. Just then, another voice resounded in Khan's mind. "Human, I'm done absorbing Jormungandr's body, bloodline, and increasing my strength." Rudra spoke after a long time. The next moment, he spoke in a voice filled with surging battle intent. "And I'm ready for a challenge." While they faced Axel and the fire deity, who were now looking down on Khan and his subordinates like looking at small ants, Rudra had finally decided to join the battle on his own accords. Currently, only Khan and Jugram were physically capable to fight the enemy side because other subordinates couldn't participate in a direct confrontation due to the scalding heat that was at least close to 1800 degrees Celsius. This was enough to even melt an armor entirely in just a few minutes, so at best, all they could do was give support from the sidelines. As for Jugram and Khan, the former had immunity against all kinds of fire, while the latter could withstand 2000 degrees Celsius temperature because of the abilities he acquired from the Magma Drake dungeon boss back in the day in Bromner Dungeon while Khan started his journey in Flavit City. However, now that Rudra was also ready to pitch into the battle, their side was no longer the weaker one. "All right, system, give me his details first," ordered Khan. In just 10 seconds, he was completely surprised to the point he felt like Rudra was no longer in the same league as them. Following are the statistics of the subordinate Rudra. Name, Rudra. Species, Voronir, Variant Basilisk. Job, none. Rank, mythical rank. Level, 483. Strength, 83,923. Agility, 64,801. Dexterity, 74,912. Defense, 81,392. Mana, 60,291. Following are the skills and abilities of the subordinate. Lucid Reality, Saint Rank. Neurotoxin Venom, Saint Rank. Poison Immunity, Legendary Rank. Thermal Body, Saint Rank. Drake Scales, Saint Rank. Basilisk Scales, Saint Rank. Dominator's Aura, Saint Rank. Subordinate Rudra has created a new exclusive bloodline ability. Corrosive Magma, Legendary Rank. Passive. Allows the subordinate to infuse the corrosive venom of the legendary rank Jormungandr with the magma stored inside the body. Compared to normal magma, this corrosive magma cannot be defended against even if an enemy has fire immunity and will corrode, disintegrate as well as poison anything it touches, rendering the opponent unable to move or fight as time went by. Note: this ability will work on an enemy as long as they're not in an ethereal or spectral form.
Bloodline, Godbet Basilisk và Draconian Bloodline.
Current bloodline purity, 80% Va 20% respectively. Reported the system. Rudra was a mythical being since the beginning, and he had a basilisk and draconian bloodline, two of the strongest amongst the god beast and any other monster species in the entire world. Khan could instantly tell that Rudra used Magmadrake and Jormungandr's innate abilities, and somehow managed to merge them using their bloodline, as the Drake was a creature of magma, while the basilisk descendant had a neurotoxin venom. Since all Rudra did was study and perfect bloodlines, he absorbed while freeloading on Khan, who gave him top-grade cores and ores to raise his levels. The result wasn't too surprising for the latter, resulting in his stats being way higher than his levels should allow. Even Khan had to acknowledge that Rudra was now a lot stronger than Omega. If not for the gravity law skills, even Omega was lacking in brute strength and wouldn't survive against the Voronir subordinate if they fought to the death. I guess it would be the first time that we will battle together, spoke Rudra in Khan's mind. All right then, come out, ordered Khan to the variant basilisk subordinate after he heard of Rudra's mega upgrade. Swoosh! Suddenly, a massive black shadow descended from Khan's figure and instantly spread for at least 8 kilometers in length. Bang! Rumble! Crackle! Shatter! Every nook and cranny around the destroyed grassland suddenly started shaking under a leaden pressure, and soon, a ginormous creature appeared out of this black shadow. Hiss! A high-pitched hissing resounded in the 10-kilometer region and right in front of everyone. A massive and simply too long black and red creature appeared while revealing an insurmountable and terrifying aura that even made Axel shudder in fear, while the Kagetsuchi's expression turned grim. Vanessa, who also felt like bowing down because of this heavy pressure, was flabbergasted on the spot. "What the hell is this monster?" she asked with a constricted face, as if she was looking at her natural archenemy. A 500-meter-tall snake-like creature whose length was at least 8 kilometers while its width was at least 300 meters rose its head proudly. Even its width was close to 3 football fields combined. Even a mountain would be too easy to wrap around for this terrifying creature. 2 black and long horns, each being at least 10 meters in length, appearing like a crown of a king, revealed themselves, while 2 massive eyes, each of which was literally made from magma, were now looking at the enemy side. Hundreds of black pike-like teeth as its maw revealed the glowing red tongue, while a stream of magma ran like a river as the basilisk hissed loudly. Thousands of cracks were spread across the body of this variant basilisk that leaked magma, while the thick and hard layer of skin was a combination of both basilisk and dragon hide. Khan could feel that it was another upgrade to Rudra's body after he ate and absorbed Jormungandr's body and transformed into a completely different creature, even stronger than before. Shrill! A massive burst of pitch black and red aura suddenly spread across the 10 kilometers radius as Rudra used his Dominator's aura skill that affected the minds of opponents and broke their mental fortitude before the battle even began. Khan and the crew were accustomed to it, but Axel and Kagetsuchi felt as if they were in a pinch already. You have the bloodline of dragons and basilisks? What kind of creature is this?" asked Kagetsuchi, taking a defensive stance. Even for a monster who originated from a snake-like species, Rudra was too tall, while his blistering hot body covered in the black scales combined using the properties of 2 different species was way too long. But Khan and Rudra had no intentions to make a formal introduction, as the former instantly activated the dimensional domain for the first time since the battle with the heroes party started, enshrouding 5 kilometers of radius under a pitch-black dome. But at this moment, more than Axel and Kagetsuchi, there was another individual who had her eyes wide open. Vanessa was suddenly hit with a realization and shouted in disbelief. Son of a bitch! It was you! Vanessa was completely baffled at this moment after she noticed a familiar black dome that suddenly appeared across the battlefield as she stood away from its perimeter. A revelation hit her mind like a wrecking ball because this scene was similar to the events of 1.5 years ago. Back then, a group of supporters suddenly appeared and helped her with information and strategy to take the second prince and her other half-brother aka Rogi's host Siegfried for his actions against the human race. During those times, Vanessa thought a 5th stage saint was supporting her to become empress because only those beings could use a domain of their own. And now, it turned out that it was Khan all along. A chosen hero whose existence she didn't even know of before. Vanessa tried to run her brain at full speed and after recounting the old events, she reached a final conclusion. Khan did it for Thrak and himself. He was bold enough to take down an empire's prince just to make his own life easier and create a perfect cover-up for his background in their empire. However, she no longer had any qualms about it because whether Khan did it for his own sake or not, he was now battling for her sake against powerful entities. Axel, that domain, spoke Kagetsuchi in a grim voice. What? Asked the hero of fire. That's related to space law. If I'm not wrong, then he has unlocked the dimensional law divine ability. Although nobody knows what that divine ability can do, we shouldn't step inside his domain carelessly. Anything made by the first god in existence, the god of space, shouldn't be looked down upon, warned the fire deity to Axel. No need to worry. We can still kill them without even entering his domain, snickered Axel. However, at this moment Khan and Rudra, who were inside the dimensional domain, nodded at each other and quickly made their move. Swoosh! In just a blink of an eye, Khan suddenly appeared 3 kilometers away from the ginormous body of this summoned deity, and without getting a chance to react, both Axel and Kagetsuchi were now covered inside the dimensional domain. What the hell? How can his domain move so suddenly? Shouted Axel. Because unlike others, Khan's dimensional domain moved along with his body and he could instantly cast it just with a thought. This was an advantage even Omega, Jugram and Oliver didn't have with their respective domains. As soon as Axel, Kagetsuchi and his army were encapsulated by the black domain that spread over 5 kilometers radius, all of them felt like their total strength becoming half of their original limits. This was the main effect of dimensional domain during a fight. Any enemy brought inside it will have all of their physical stats, including the mana capacity, reduced by 50%. Even if someone was a 4th stage saint, they'd still be brought to the level of a 2nd stage saint while fighting against Khan inside this domain. Khan hadn't used the dimensional domain till this point for 2 reasons. 1, he was being cautious because Vanessa would definitely remember it. 2, he did not want to give away one of his biggest cheats to the enemy side. Rumble. Rumble. Rudra's massive serpentine body slithered on this burning battlefield, completely unaffected by the extensive heat that had turned the 15 kilometers region into an incinerated and melting open ground. Boom! Jugram turned into his real Diablo's form again and summoned his massive giant's words made of world energy, directly starting a wanton massacre of the millions of soldiers. He wasn't just a random monster but a massive warrior with battle experience, fighting skills and a clear mind while facing millions of these fire soldiers. Damn it! Why the hell is my strength reduced to half? Cursed Kagetsuchi. By logic, he should have had the strength of a peak 4th stage saint now, but suddenly, he was barely at peak 2nd stage. Axel, on the other hand, felt like he was no better than an intermediate 2nd stage saint, losing his battle strength instantly, and now, he was even weaker than Khan in terms of physical strength. Bring it on, bastard! Give us your best shot! Bellowed Axel as he challenged Khan without a hint of fear in his eyes. Boom! With pleasure, spoke Khan, and soon, a mixed burst of black and red world energy erupted like a volcano from his body, and soon, an ethereal form of himself that was around 90 meters tall. This spectral form of his only had the upper torso above his waist and Khan stood below it. Soon, this form started growing 6 horns on its head. The first pair of 2 on the forehead belonged to true demons, the ones behind were dragon horns, and finally, the longest horns behind his head that looked similar to Rudra's horns belonged to the basilisks. Crackle! Crack! Spectral Khan's entire body turned rock-hard, similar to the mountain titan, and then numerous scales of basilisks and dragons started appearing on its skin, while two large red wings of legendary rank monster bird aka Caladrius spread from the back. The claws on its hand were similar to Skoll and Hattie. On top of it, Khan granted it this form in Vimerak skin, dragon physique, Jormungandr's eyes that could cast lucid reality. Khan then granted it Titan transformation that rose the size of the spectral form by 30 times, and the total height became 270 meters, even bigger than Axel's true form. What form of power is this? Vanessa asked with her mouth agape in shock. Axel and Kagutsuchi, however, had an indignant expressions. Khan had finally used the spirit replica skill that he absorbed from Vilgax back in Verlassen and was unlocked after Khan became a saint. And finally, the entire form started covering itself in a purple layer of samurai-like helmet, armor made of the guardian dragon's aura, while a dragon head appeared in the center of the chest armor. A spectral form of 200-meter-long Lucifer suddenly appeared in its right hand, while 500 small replicas of his greatsword, each being 10 meters long, appeared and floated behind this massive figure. Khan, who now had his own version of a summoned warrior deity, then shouted with a tyrannical voice filled with absolute killing intent. Bankai, Kakujo Tengen Myoo. Khan finally used the spirit replica by infusing many skills, abilities, and bloodlines in it, after he was finally forced to go all out against Kagutsuchi, the fire deity. One of the 5 doppelgangers of Khan who were tasked to train in combat skills and techniques while he was increasing his skills in blacksmithing craft was in charge of perfecting spirit replica. This new battle form of his didn't just come out of nowhere or was perfected on the spot, as the doppelganger, who was also Khan, had experimented with various bloodlines and effects and formed a perfect synergy in this battle mode after many months from going through arduous trial and error. And finally, Khan decided to use it against Axel and his summoned deity to shift the battle in their favor from the get-go. Unlike Cassandra, Vanessa, and Axel, Khan had no way to summon a deity himself. However, this battle form would also grow in size and different abilities with more powerful skills, abilities and bloodlines he acquired along with the rise in his rank as a saint. This version was only prototype 1.0, and there would certainly be many upgrades in the future. So in a way, this would be one of Khan's biggest trump cards even when fighting against other heroes. This form, is it one of his divine abilities? Asked Axel. No. He had mixed many monster bloodlines, including that of some descendants of different god beasts, basilisk and dragon. We just need to wait till his form gets deactivated on its own, forewarned the fire deity. But little did they know that this form would be active as long as he could provide it with a constant supply of world energy. And because Khan had Rathnar's core linked to his soul, he had an endless supply. Thus, he was fully planning to use his hacks to put an end to this battle quickly. System, from now on we will call this form as Shura, said Khan. Shura mode name registered, responded the system. Clang! A burst of shockwave resonated in the battlefield as the massive Shura faced Kagutsuchi in a head-on battle. The spectral Lucifer was as strong as the original one, and the 500 small summoned greatswords using Sword Emperor skill attacked the opponent from different sides, stabbing the deity's knees and Achilles' heels. Bang! Rumble! Rudra suddenly barged into the 5 kilometers radius as he waltzed in while destroying thousands of fire soldiers, some of whom were 100 meters tall and had different weapons of their own. However, not only did the Voronir subordinate have immunity against their fire elemental attacks, his defenses were impenetrable, while the magma he spewed from his mouth started corroding thousands of them on the spot. Khan performed various attacks and Shura followed his exact combat techniques while stabbing and slashing at vital points of the fire deity, who was still 3.5 times bigger than his new battle form. Flap! Flap! Shura quickly flapped the Caladrius wings on its back that granted 4 times flying speed, and Khan evaded a massive beam-like attack from Kagutsuchi. Jugram was killing thousands of fire soldiers with his skills, while Rudra took down 5 of the 100-meter-tall generals Kagutsuchi had in his army. Some of them disintegrated after getting struck with Rudra's corrosive magma, while the rest were just torn into big pieces by the basilisk's massive maw filled with fangs and sharp teeth. Clang! Rumble! For the first time, Kagetsuchi was shoved backward for at least 500 meters as Lucifer and the deity's greatsword clashed against each other. The former was only 200 meters long, while the deity's greatsword was 800 meters long. However, even without any buffs, Kon was already comparable to a peak second stage saint just like Kagetsuchi under the suppression of the dimensional domain. And with the added strength of Shura form, he was thoroughly suppressing the enemy without any trouble at all. 30 minutes later, the battle between Shura and Kagetsuchi was now at a standstill because both were equally matched in terms of strength. "Do it quickly!" ordered Kon to Rudra, who just chewed off an army general's upper torso. Rudra slithered at a fast pace and approached Kagetsuchi, who was fending off Shura's attacks while launching firestorms and fireballs at Kon, while the latter kept flapping his wings and evaded these lethal attacks that launched at him like cannonballs. Crackle! Crackle! Rudra's gigantic 500-meter-tall figure finally reached close to Kagetsuchi and quickly bit his left leg from behind and flung it away. Bang! Shatter! Nearby 3 kilometers of the region was devastated and filled with crevices as the fire deity fell on the ground. Kon quickly cast Dragon Strike skill and attacked from the air, while Rudra started shooting the corrosive magma from his mouth at the center of Kagetsuchi's chest. This wasn't a fair fight in any way. Rather, Rudra and Kon were ganging up on the deity who was already suppressed to a great extent. Bang! The Dragon Strike hit Kagetsuchi, and a massive dark red explosion spread across 5 kilometers of the battlefield. The fire army tried to interfere, but Jugram, who was now fully buffed up to the level of a third-stage saint, jumped in and barricaded them all. Rudra, on the other end, swept his tail and swatted away thousands of soldiers, killing them instantly. And finally, a haggard figure of Kagetsuchi was revealed in front of them. The main target of Kon's Dragon Strike, accompanied with Marauder skill and Rudra's corrosive magma, was none other than Axel. Ever since the fire deity was summoned, Axel stood in the chest of this ethereal being to be protected by the enemy side. He was already suppressed and couldn't fight because if the summoner died, the deity would instantly disappear anyway. And this was why Kon and Rudra were targeting him after they took control of the battlefield. Damn it! The magma spewed by that basilisk may not damage me, but it's breaking past my defenses and corroding my body. Cursed Kagetsuchi and got up. Nonetheless, Rudra charged in again and slithered around the deity's whole body. In just a few seconds, the enemy had their entire body tied by a mythical rank rope. In the following moments, Shura quickly stabbed Lucifer in the fire deity's chest but barely missed Axel, who shifted his position in a nick of time. But even so, Kon wasn't disappointed in the slightest as he let out a grin. Shwoom! Shwoom! Suddenly, a black wormhole appeared at the end of Lucifer's blade that was plunged inside Kagetsuchi's chest. Both Axel and the fire deity had horrified expressions while Kon let out a devilish smirk because at this moment, he was finally using his legendary rank skill in a battle that he got from the Guardian Dragon, also called as Energy Plunder. After Kon and Rudra joined arms and managed to incapacitate Kagetsuchi, the fire deity was completely unable to move an inch. Kon in his Shura battle mode plunged down Lucifer in its chest and finally activated the Energy Plunderer skill for the first time in a battle. Energy Plunderer was a legendary rank skill he got from the Guardian Dragon, which allowed Kon to create a black wormhole that could absorb mana, world energy, elemental attacks, spells, and various forms of energy sources. The wormhole would then deconstruct and reconstruct these forms of sources to filter out the purest energy that can be received by Kon in any desirable form. And at the moment, Kon could feel his reserves getting filled and his levels rising, enough to make a breakthrough to second stage saint at the spot. But Kon willingly halted his progression because he would be unable to fight during that state. As for the enemy, in the end, Kagetsuchi was a summoned entity purely made of world energy and soul essence that Axel sacrificed to summon him. This was Kon's plan all along when he decided to jump into the battle with Jugram. Rudra tagging along was just a cherry on top, which made things easier for them as the latter could do a better job at restricting this massive 1-kilometer-tall being's body and movements. Shing! Shing! The black hole inside Kagetsuchi's chest exerted a tremendous amount of suction force and started engulfing his body from the inside at a rapid pace as if trying to devour it as fast as it could. Hiss! Meanwhile, Rudra hissed loudly and used lucid reality on Axel, since he was higher leveled, making the hero of fire unable to fight or aid Kagutsuchi in any way. Axel, use your divine weapon, shouted Kagutsuchi in Axel's head. However, the recipient didn't even hear the cry for help, as he was currently inside a different reality where everything around him looked as if he was in a different world. Stop resisting. You're my prey, spoke Rudra, his voice sending tremors across 3 kilometers radius. Rudra opened his maw and shot a massive stream of corrosive magma on Kagutsuchi's face, while Shura kept absorbing and weakening the enemy using energy plunder. Soon, under Rudra's attacks, Kagutsuchi's face started corroding and turning into ash because of the high temperature of his own body, while Khan used Dragon Strike again to land devastating blows to its legs and arms. Rip! Rudra started targeting the fire deity in his vital spots and chewed off a big chunk of fiery red world energy, as if he was eating off a wild animal. Arrghhhhh! Screamed the fire deity, as for the first time ever since he became a deity, was he thoroughly humiliated and treated like a weakling after being summoned by Axel for the first time in the history of summoned heroes. Yet, the fire deity was not only oppressed because of its limited rank, but it also couldn't even fight because all of its skills were useless against Khan and Rudra. Just a flap from Shura's wings was enough to redirect any summoned attack skills or fire spells. No! Bellowed Kagutsuchi as his figure started disappearing, and his dark red body was turning transparent because Khan was draining all of its world energy. 5 more minutes passed, and now, after 30 minutes of battle, the fire deity completely disappeared, not even leaving a single trace behind. Swoom! In a blink of an eye, all the fire surrounding the 20 kilometers region, millions of fire soldiers' army also completely disappeared, leaving only a smoldering and charred battlefield. Cough! Cough! Axel, who was laying silently on the decimated open ground, started throwing up blood and started choking on the spot from backlash after Kagutsuchi was killed by Rudra, Shura, and Khan. Crack! Crack! Shatter! The 6th white archaic formation shattered, but this time, there was no soul left to escape because Axel had sacrificed it to summon the fire deity. 3 minutes later, Axel was revived by the Soul Eater divine ability and had recovered to his peak health again. However, this time, Axel was thoroughly infuriated. He died 6 times already, and now only 2 lives remained, the last being his own, and then he would be finished for good. He had a constricted and incredulous expression as he revealed his killing intent and anger towards the enemies from the opposite side. This isn't going to cut it. I can't afford to lose any more lives from here on. But thanks to my last divine ability, there's nothing he or his allies can do to me anymore. I guess I could risk losing another life to use it to win this battle, thought Axel with a scornful gaze towards Khan and Rudra. You forced me to the edge, Salvatore. Be proud of yourself for forcing me to use it for the first time in a fight, declared Axel loudly, his voice echoing in the 5 kilometers region. Bring it on, ye wanker, taunted Khan without any fear, while all the subordinates had surrounded Axel from 8 different sides, ready to pounce on the hero of fire and end this battle. But even with just 2 lives left, Axel was confident to be able to kill Khan for some reason. It's time I settle the score with you bastards, spoke Axel, and soon, a mix of black and white aura appeared around his body and his heart started glowing with a red and yellow light. In the following moments, the black and white aura started coalescing while the red and yellow aura around his heart suddenly moved across his body and stopped at Axel's left palm. In front of everyone's gazes, these 4 different auras merged, and soon, a big orb of flickering flame consisting of all 4 auras came to be. Boom! A burst of highly dangerous and terrifying aura spread in 20 kilometers region, and even someone like Omega and Rudra, both of whom were comparable to a 3rd stage saints, felt a sense of dread. The orb of fire glowed brighter, and its multicolored presence emitted an insurmountable pressure. It's been close to 1,000 years since I last saw it. Be careful, boy. That's the eternal flame and the divine weapon of hero of fire, spoke Rathnar in Khan's mind with a grim voice. Vanessa suddenly spoke with a terrified voice and revealed the name of this divine weapon. Amaterasu. The 4-colored big orb of fire flickered in Axel's hand, emitting a threatening aura so intense that even Khan, Rudra and Jugram, who had resistance against the fire element, felt like they'd die miserably if hit by this weapon. Be careful, Khan. The legends say that Amaterasu was forged using a fraction of God Hetrax's own soul. Even though it's not in its peak form because of Axel's rank, it's not something you should face head-on, warned Vanessa. Khan nodded and asked Rathnar, "How did you face and win against it back then?" "I know how it works, but I was too powerful when I faced the hero of fire in my era. Back then, I had many long-range attack skills. But your strength and range are way too small since you're only a first-stage saint. We have no advantage against him," replied the peak saint's soul. Swoosh! Before Khan could assess the situation, Axel appeared 5 kilometers away from him and directed Amaterasu in his direction. Shoot! A massive 500 meters wide spherical archaic formation suddenly appeared in front of flickering Amaterasu and started charging itself. "Kid, run!" warned Rathnar, while Khan's survival instinct blessing rang like a siren in his head. Swoosh! Swoosh! Rumble! In just a few seconds, Khan moved 3 kilometers away as a massive and incredibly fast multicolored beam of fire launched itself and covered the distance of 5 kilometers in just 1 second. Bang! However, although Khan managed to escape in time using Quicksilver's skill, his Shuriform was too big to move along with and was instantly struck by Amaterasu. Crackle! Sizzle! Ayer! Wailed Khan in pain as soon as Amaterasu's intense flame started burning his 270 meters tall gigantic battle form instantly, and in just a few seconds, half of its body was burned and turned to ash without putting up a single resistance. Khan then quickly deactivated the Spirit Replica skill to not suffer from a backlash of the skill getting destroyed. However, his expression turned fearful for the first time since their battle began. Because his Shura mode wasn't weak in any aspect. It had the defense of a primordial titan in Vimarak, Dragon, and Basilisk. Even Kagutsuchi had a hard time fending off Shura mode and hadn't even managed to break apart the armor made from the Guardian Dragon's aura. But given how quickly Amaterasu engulfed and burned that body, as well as how easily it destroyed half of the gigantic figure in just seconds, it didn't take a genius to understand that Khan would have died instantly if he was hit by Amaterasu. If not for Quicksilver's skill, even Khan's ashes wouldn't be left. Just then, Rathnar spoke in his mind again. "Boy, your domain can't do anything against Amaterasu, and you can't even touch Axel from this distance. Based on my estimations, his current range of attack should be 15 kilometers since his body is suppressed by your domain's restrictions on his physical stats. Also, your subordinates will instantly die if they're struck by Axel's divine weapon. All of you, maintain at least 20 kilometers distance and protect Vanessa," ordered Khan to his group. Slash! Damn it! Cursed Khan as he tried to evade another super laser attack from Axel's Death Star, aka Amaterasu. Sizzle! Although Khan managed to escape by the slightest distance, his left arm was grazed by the fire beam. "Ayaha!" screamed Khan, but while suffering the immeasurable pain as the fire instantly burned and ate away his entire arm. Slash! Khan quickly used Lucifer and cut off his entire left arm up to shoulder without a second thought, and he instantly used Quicksilver again to create distance. If he hadn't acted at that very moment, he would be turned into ash right now. "Armin!" commanded Khan, and in just 2 seconds, the Pathfinder subordinate appeared behind Khan. "Stand still," spoke Armin, and a blue aura emitted from both of his palms. The blue aura covered Khan's left shoulder, and soon, it elongated and reformed his cut-off arm in just 10 seconds. Armin just used his SSS rank skill called Restoration, which allowed him to restore any damaged body parts of a target and bring them back to their previous state 1 minute ago. This ability worked as long as the target wasn't dead. Khan clenched his left palm. His gray longcoat was damaged. Although it could repair itself with time, it would take a while. Damn it! His divine weapon is too fast, has no restriction on the direction, and even if I create a distance, it can still kill me easily no matter how strong my defense is. Thought Khan. His gray longcoat was made from the Invimarak skin. The legendary rank monster had impeccable resistance to many known elements, yet it turned to crisps in just a second. Khan felt dread after realizing how powerful Axel's divine weapon was. Even a 5th stage saint wouldn't survive after being hit by Amaterasu, which wasn't even in its peak form because of the suppression on Axel's body. At full capacity, Khan wouldn't even be able to evade any of his attacks. I still have some tricks left, but I can't be certain if they'll work. He thought to himself. Kid, I have a plan. Just then, the first emperor chimed in. Be quick. Although I can escape on my own, I want to kill that bastard at any cost. He replied. The thought of running away crossed his mind because he and his group had no way to face Axel's divine weapon. Even the legendary rank Lucifer would be melted after getting struck by Amaterasu. Yet, Khan wanted to take the risk to kill Axel for good. In the following moments, Rathnar quickly told him a plan he came up with on the spot. You think you can manage it? Asked the Peak Saint. If luck is on our side, maybe I will be able to pull it off. Let's give it a shot. Replied Khan. Good. It's time you used them together. Spoke Rathnar while Khan on the other end evaded another attack from Amaterasu. The ground that was hit with the fire beam was instantly pulverized and a 3 kilometers deep crevice formed in the battlefield. As soon as Khan created 10-kilometer distance in the air between him and Axel, boom! A massive burst of black and violet aura appeared on the battlefield and Axel felt like he was being targeted by a powerful predator. Impossible! Even the imperial family doesn't have something like that. He spoke in a frightful tone as he looked at a man donning pitch-black armor with glowing violet outlines over some parts. Because at this moment, Khan was using one of his biggest cards that he chose to hide till now. And that was the legendary ranked Dracos armor. Khan finally equipped the newly upgraded Dracos armor that was now reforged with the Guardian Dragon's body parts. Before, Khan was warned by Throck not to use it casually because the dragon's aura would alert a lot of people. However, Khan was saving it for the last battle till this point. But after hearing Rathnar's plan, Khan had no choice but to use it without having another option. System, give me the details on new effects and buffs. Ordered Khan. Following are the bonus effects and bloodline buffs to the reforged Dracos armor. Dragon armor, legendary rank. Upgradable. Physical defense while wearing this armor has risen by 70% and agility has increased by 55%. Reformation, Saint rank. Upgradable. Using the host's mana, world energy and draconian bloodline as a source, the armor will be able to repair itself over time once it has been broken. This bloodline effect will be active as long as the host is still alive. The attack, defense, and agility of the armor effects will increase with the rank and levels of the host. Dragon's Momentum, Saint rank, upgradable. Strength stats while using any weapon made of dragon species. Including the host's sword Lucifer will be increased by 60% and dexterity will be enhanced by 56%. Note, the armor and weapons can be upgraded using materials belonging to the draconian species body parts, and to increase their buffs and rank of the skills, the host must absorb more draconian bloodline. The host can activate Dragon Physique and Dragon Sovereignty indefinitely while using the Dracos armor. It will provide an additional 30% increase in all of the host's physical and magical stats. Current Draconian bloodline purity, 35%, reported the system. Khan instantly noticed that the word Drake was replaced with Dragon, this time after the armor set was reforged. And this increase in stats and buffs the Dracos armor was offering also rose by at least twice. He understood that it was due to the rise in rank of the armor as well as his increase in Draconian bloodline purity. Boom! A sonic boom resonated in the surrounding 1-kilometer radius after the bloodline effect kicked in and Khan's appearance under the black armor with violet outlines changed. The next moment Khan opened his eye. Even Axel and Vanessa, who saw it from afar, felt like Khan was no longer a human. His black hair turned white and grew shoulder length while his human eyes now transformed into vertically slanted red eyes of a dragon. His entire skin turned faded violet while the armor kept leaking a tyrannical dragon aura. Khan then quickly activated Dragon's Physique skill that gave him 3 times boost in all physical stats for 20 minutes. But since he was equipping the new Dracos armor, it had no time restriction anymore, as Khan received a special treatment of owning a legendary rank armor and weapon while having a bloodline that resonated with and amplified the armor's bonus effects. At this moment, the Guardian Dragon's aura had become one with Khan because of the bloodline which was triggered after he activated the dragon physique. Dragon sovereignty was currently useless to him since Axel wasn't a mindless monster and was higher leveled than him. Alright, this should do. I'm at least close to an intermediate third stage saint with all these buffs. Spoke Khan and returned to the present moment. This whole report took only half a second in his mind, and now, Khan was ready. Bang! Just then, Axel recovered from his fearful state and broke free from the dragon's aura and attacked Khan with Amaterasu again. Swoosh! However, this time, Khan easily escaped and turned out to be unscathed from Amaterasu's fire beam and appeared 5 kilometers away in the sky. You can't run from me forever, Salvatore. You'll die very soon. Spoke Axel as he was agitated for some reason. Stick to my plan, kid. He doesn't even realize that he's making a big mistake at the moment. Said Rathnar. I know, so sit tight. It's gonna be a wild ride. Responded Khan, and the next second, swoosh! Swoosh! 15 doppelgangers looking identical to Khan while having a Dracos armor and Lucifer of their own appeared beside him in succession. All of them had 50% of Khan's physical stats and abilities. If this was before he came to the Vulcan Empire, Khan wouldn't even be able to use these many doppelgangers at once. But during his training period for blacksmithing and artificing skills, his mind had become many times stronger, and he no longer had any problems controlling each of them. Axel had an ashen expression while Vanessa was flabbergasted after seeing that there were a total of 16 Khans present. With their numbers and stats, it was like 8 first-stage saints on his side. But Khan had no plans of attacking Axel because the chances of him dying were bigger than Khan killing Axel even with the help of his doppelgangers. However, Axel didn't know that, and this was Khan's plan. Without needing any form of orders or communication, the 16 Khans quickly spread and surrounded Axel from different directions, making the original body unable to track as they all exuded the identical aura. The real Khan had chosen to limit his aura to match with others so nobody could even tell a difference. Forget Axel, even his own subordinates couldn't tell which Khan was the real one. All of them started charging the Dark Lightning Strike, one of Khan's strongest attack skills, at once, and revealed their killing intent. "Fight me by yourself, you bastard!" Axel shouted as he tried to antagonize Khan. But in reality, Axel was mortified after this maneuver because he was being besieged from all sides. Amaterasu could destroy or pulverize everything in its wake, but it had the restriction of a single direction attack. It couldn't split in different directions or parts to attack all fronts. Slash! All Khans attacked using Lucifer at the same time at Axel from a distance of 2 to 3 kilometers away. Crackle! The lightning bolts, assisted with darkness, turned the entire battlefield blinding white as they struck in Axel's direction. Bang! Sizzle! Boom! Axel's body catapulted on the ground after being zapped by the Dark Lightning Strike and getting heavily injured. At the last moment, he used Amaterasu and killed one Khan. However, that turned out to be a fake one. He doesn't even realize it. The one to cause his downfall won't be me. Thought the real Khan, acting and attacking Axel just like others. But Axel himself. The battlefield trembled and dozens of kilometers of space was pulverized as Axel used his divine weapon as the main driving force to attack Khan. The opponent, however, was ganging up on him while launching a barrage of attacking skills from time to time on all fronts. Bang! Axel barely evaded a dragon strike attack and saw the ground below exploding from the impact. He quickly retreated 3 kilometers away and used Amaterasu to attack the Khan who just made that lethal attack on him. Shwoom! The 500-meter-wide archaic formation charged itself and targeted the man in Dracos armor. Shoot! The super laser attack from Amaterasu only took 3 seconds before it not only killed Khan but also destroyed a cliff that stood tall behind him, leaving only a massive circular hole in its body. Crack! The entire cliff collapsed after it was thoroughly poked through without any resistance. Phew! That makes the third one, thought Axel. In the past 5 minutes, he managed to kill 3 doppelgangers and 13 remained. Which one of them is real? That armor they're wearing is perfectly masking their existence, and I can't use Sage's eye again to find the real body either, thought Axel as he looked around for signs to identify the real body. Hey, bastard. Your aim sucks. Why don't you admit defeat already? I feel like I'm bullying a little girl, spoke one of the cons hovering above Axel on his left-hand side. What did you say, you piece of shit? Fight me with your real body if you dare? Exclaimed Axel as he was outraged. Khan had been purposely instigating and antagonizing Axel by calling him names. He had already figured out that Axel had the halo of entitlement. So being called incompetent or being compared to a woman because of his misogynistic nature always struck a nerve. Swoosh! Instead of receiving a reply, the Khan behind him launched another dark lightning strike. Axel was quickly alerted and used Amaterasu, launching another massive and destructive beam that was enough to turn everything to smithereens within 15 kilometers range. Another Khan was pulverized. However, this offered him no relief because the others were already waiting for an opening. Slash! Bang! Axel was hit with another wave of 100-meter-long and wide lightning strikes. Although he was a third-stage saint, he was already suppressed under the dimensional domain. He had no idea that the original Khan needed to be within 5 kilometers proximity for him to get affected by this domain. And thus, each strike heavily wounded him because his defenses were already halved. Plus lightning and darkness were 2 of the strongest elements of reality. So they hit even harder than they should have. Huff! Huff! After 10 more minutes passed and Axel successfully killed 7 Khans, he started sweating and his body started becoming heavy for some reason. Kid, he's finally getting affected by the soul essence depleting. As I said, he's using a borrowed soul in the end. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been affected at least for an hour. Keep doing what you're doing. We have him trapped in a cage, said Rathnar with a coy smirk. This was Rathnar's main plan all along. The divine weapon ate the soul essence. And even if Axel was using someone else's soul, their soul would be much weaker than a hero's soul by at least 10 times. So obviously, the soul essence consumption would be much more since the quality was already subpar than the intended source to use a divine weapon. And thus, the divine weapon would be the very thing chipping away the borrowed life Axel had. Clang! Bang! Shatter! One after another, Khan's and Draco's armor started attacking with various attacking skills such as Windcutter, Lightning, multiple Aura Blades and Dragon Strike, making Axel retreat and defend himself again from time to time while Khan kept mocking and insulting the hero of fire. My, who would have thought Hetrax summoned such a pussy? Hey, are you even a real hero? I bet a sissy like you can't even defeat one of my generals on your own. So why not go back to the damn place you came from? Put on your favorite pants and send the real fire hero here? Khan said, hovering 5 kilometers away from Axel, his eyes filled with mockery. You bastard! I'll kill you and cut you into 1,000 pieces. And I'll make Vanessa watch it when I do it! Shouted Axel and his eyes turned red, filled with bloodlust and killing intent. Boom! Axel was infuriated to the point he wantonly attacked the Khans in whichever direction he saw them. Similar scene occurred for a few more minutes and Axel mindlessly attacked his enemies. Although he managed to kill 3 more Khans in the process, his body started feeling heavier with each attack. Crack! Crack! Cracks started forming on the last white archaic formation hovering over his figure which held the soul of a saint. Finally, because of these outraged attacks, Axel has used up the entire soul essence and as a result, he started losing control over his body because of the backlash he was receiving from Amaterasu. At this moment, he barely had any soul essence left but his divine weapon was forcefully sucking in the essence. Not good. At this rate I will shatter. Before he could take any measures, the last formation shattered and Axel received a huge backlash, losing control over his body and Amaterasu at the same moment. Swoosh! Axel was shocked but quickly reacted as Khan suddenly appeared behind him. You're dead, you bastard! Shouted Axel and quickly launched Amaterasu floating in his hand at this close range. Bang! Sizzle! Arg! But unlike his plans, Khan was struck by the four-colored flame and couldn't even land the finishing blow on Axel. Instead, he was getting incinerated alive. In the following seconds, not only the Khan in front but the other Khans surrounding him disappeared after the one in front of him turned to small blisters, fading into nothingness. "No!" shouted Vanessa from afar. "Ha ha ha! I finally killed that bastard!" Laughed Axel in joy, and a sense of relief spread in his body. With this time shot, he killed Khan right before he lost full control over his divine weapon. Shing! Shing! Axel could feel that his connection with Amaterasu was severed and the divine weapon no longer responded to him because the soul essence was dried up. Axel would die soon, but he would be revived again, so he still had an elated smile on his face. Slash! Just then, a 3-meter-tall void crack opened. Behind it was an incredibly strong suction force that quickly pulled in Amaterasu. Before Axel could even move, the eternal flame disappeared from his world. "No!" shouted Axel as soon as he realized what was happening. Because just now, Amaterasu was pulled inside the true dimension. Axel hovered still in the air with a stupefied expression on his face because at this moment, he had lost his soul connection to his divine weapon Amaterasu as soon as Khan pulled it inside the true dimension. Divine weapons were akin to how a novel or a manga protagonist was often given a holy sword to kill the demon lord. But now, Khan stole that holy sword from the protagonist instead. Khan, on the other hand, could still see the unending fire of Amaterasu violently burning inside the true dimension after focusing the space force in his eyes. What a powerful thing! Even the true dimension isn't able to annihilate or extinguish it. Anything else would have been destroyed on the atomic level as soon as it entered inside. Thought Khan as he looked at Hero of Fire's divine weapon that didn't lose a single bit of its power. "You bastard! Give me my weapon back!" shouted Axel in a helpless and infuriated voice. "Not in a million years," spoke Khan with a smug grin on his face and grabbed Axel's neck. Crack! Axel, who was already on the verge of death because of using all of his soul essence to use Amaterasu, was already weakened to the point of being unable to even put up a resistance. Died instantly as Khan broke his neck with left hand. Bang! His body dropped on the charred ground below while Khan contemplated the happenings in the last dozen minutes. During the entire battle, he swapped places with several of his doppelgangers whenever he was about to get hit with Amaterasu's super laser attacks. But right when Axel killed a doppelganger that appeared close to him while he was about to lose control over his divine weapon, Khan used the invisibility and phase shift abilities to completely erase his existence. And just to make Axel feel assured of his victory, he deactivated all the other doppelgangers to make him carefree, and thus, it made Axel let down his guard, thinking that he killed the real Khan. The real Khan, however, appeared close to Axel and opened a dimensional void crack at his will, and pulled the divine weapon away when the latter lost control over it after making that last-moment attack. As for why Khan pulled away Amaterasu in the true dimension instead of using this chance to kill Axel again, it was for two main reasons. 1. Amaterasu was the biggest gun Axel had. Even the fire deity Kagetsuchi and Blood Titan couldn't be compared to the divine weapon that could pulverize and annihilate everything in its way, despite Axel only being able to use 30% of its original power because of his rank. But even so, a single attack was enough to destroy 15 kilometers of space easily, even with such a restriction. Khan didn't dare imagine what would be the case if Axel was a higher-ranked saint instead. Second reason being that even if Axel died because of overusing soul essence, he'd still be revived and get to use his divine weapon. This time with his original soul essence that was many times bigger, purer, and potent. With such a qualitative change, who knew if Khan would even be able to escape an attack from Amaterasu even with Dracos armor? At that time, even escaping won't be possible for them unless Khan chose to abandon Vanessa and hide in the true dimension. But even then, he won't be able to hide for long because he had used Dimensional Cut twice already. His Space Force reserves were already reduced by 75% at this stage. However, now things had finally turned in his favor for good. Axel no longer had any lives left. He had no allies or a deity to summon, and he even lost his divine weapon. One by one, Khan and his subordinates had taken away every chess piece Axel had. And now, It was only Axel and himself left for a final bout. 3 minutes later, Axel was revived again, however this time. His head was groggy as if he woke up from a bad dream. But Khan didn't wish to give him any time to recover. He still had the dimensional domain active, and as soon as Axel flew high in the air, Rudra appeared behind Khan and cast lucid reality on Axel again by looking into his eyes, making him fall under another hypnosis. Slash! Khan used dimensional cut and hacked Axel in two, ending his final life. Phew! I guess it's finally over, said Khan as he heaved a sigh of relief. The last attack depleted the Space Force again, and Khan had barely 5% left now. But now that their enemy was dead, the isolation barrier would soon disappear and they'd be able to leave. All of them waited for a dozen seconds, but still nothing happened. Why isn't this barrier disappearing? Shouldn't it be deactivated after the user died? Wondered Khan. Boom! However, before they could think for longer, a massive red aura burst from the ground. From the place Axel's chopped body fell off, to be precise. Ha ha ha! Did you think it was that easy to kill me? A malicious and dreary voice filled the surrounding 5 kilometers region as a red flash suddenly appeared in the air again, and a 100-meter-tall massive red claw launched itself at Khan. Swoosh! Khan appeared 1 kilometer away and looked at the attacker. Why the hell is he still alive? Asked Khan with a befuddled voice. Vanessa and his subordinates had a similar expression of bewilderment on their faces. All of you with me, ordered Khan, and all of them attacked Axel from all directions. Apart from Rudra, who was too big because of his size, and Vanessa, who was still recovering, everyone else attacked Axel from different directions. Khan, Jugram, Omega, and Oliver activated their respective domains to thoroughly suppress Axel to a point he couldn't even fight back. Soon, he was turned into mincemeat. But Khan and the group didn't get to celebrate their victory, as just in 10 seconds, Axel was instantly revived and back to his previous state. Hiss! Rudra also launched his corrosive magma, but Axel easily dodged it. Omega killed him using his moonlight armor form again. Jugram tried to suck away his blood. Cyril used Chains of Judgment. Armin tried to drain his life force. Oliver used Sky Domain again, while Ronan and Blackwell used their own killer moves to kill Axel. But to no avail. Every time they did so, Axel was revived on the spot, even faster than how Soul Eater divine ability resurrected him. No one understood why he wasn't dying from Khan's Dragon Strike attack either. Suddenly, Khan remembered something as he tried to make sense of why Axel wasn't dying at all. Damn it! This guy is genius. If he ever became a demigod, I don't think anyone in the entire world would be able to kill him, spoke Khan with surprise filled in his voice. What do you mean, boy? Asked Rathnar to Khan. I figured out his last divine ability, replied Khan. Which one is it? Asked the Peak Saint. Khan gave a solemn look towards Axel was resurrected again after being killed by his allies, and spoke the name of this terrifying divine ability that made the hero of fire nigh invincible at this point. Death Absolution. Khan revealed the final divine ability Axel had that made him unkillable at this stage after recalling through his own memories when he was given a choice to select his divine abilities. Death Absolution. It was a divine ability which made it so that once the user died by a particular method or under a peculiar scenario, he or she cannot be killed by that same method again. It didn't matter how many times the user of the divine ability died. Once there was a common factor in each death, the user would automatically gain invincibility and couldn't die by the new method as long as a factor or scenario was common from the previous death. And the scenarios of the recent death would be registered and stacked up on the next life, making the user no different than an immortal. Just when Khan was lost in his thoughts, Rathnar inquired, Kid, you said the last divine ability. Even after counting this one, it's still 4 divine abilities. He said, well, whatever his 4th divine ability is, he hasn't used that divine ability because he can't use it in a battle at all, replied Khan after analyzing the whole situation. And his guess was indeed right. Among all of his divine abilities, Axel couldn't use the chronovision because it wasn't battle-related. Chronovision could reveal the past of a particular place. On the surface, it looked like it was for investigation, but in reality, it could help Axel to find anything that he wanted. On a scene of a homicide, Axel could use it to run back in past to see who the killer was. To find in ancient tombs or some inherent secret, Axel could just run back in time and see the secrets or how to overcome the obstacles. Sages, I could uncover all the secrets in the world and look through loopholes if there are any. With the combination of these two, nothing would be hidden from him, making him unstoppable from finding the truth about something. Even Khan escaped from it because of his own divine ability called dimensional law, which these two divine abilities couldn't look through since they were of the same rank. Every single one of his divine abilities is chosen to complement each other. He iterated, which was indeed the truth. If Khan chose his divine abilities while thinking about the long run, so did Axel. Soul Eater gave him extra lives because Saint's souls were rare but not extinct. That would make him unkillable. With Blood Monarch, he had the strength and unending supply of an army in a large-scale battle that could even overthrow an empire's army because no matter what, he would get an indefinite supply of blood on a battlefield. Added with his true form, which had a tremendous supply of blood, he could even take down an empire's army by himself. And death absolution would basically make him an immortal on top of it. This was the main reason why even Demiurge Val Arlam, the Pope himself, believed that Axel could even kill the demon god in the future. Sizzle. Axel's entire body melted under Rudra's corrosive magma. However, Axel reverted to his previous state again in just 4 seconds, developing another immunity from this method of death. Damn it! He's becoming invulnerable to all types of attacks at this point. Cursed Khan as he saw Axel grinning at him. They were just diminishing their chances to kill Axel, and now, even Rudra's attack was used up and Axel received immunity from it. Khan then realized something. In mere moments, he realized why Axel didn't die in his 8th life. And Khan could pinpoint as the main reason was something he did himself. Dimensional domain. Axel had already died at the hands of others, inside their domains, and after Khan killed him on the account of his last life, Axel had already died under dimensional domain. After receiving backlash, his summoned fire deity aka Kagetsuchi disappeared. The dimensional domain was a common factor after dying for the 7th time, and thus, Khan couldn't kill Axel using dimensional cut in the final life. And now, Axel had immunity to all the attacking methods they had. Khan on the other end was already out of Space Force, having barely 5% left, and even opening a void crack was risky because Axel would be able to re-establish his connection with Amaterasu if Khan chose to do so. "All of you retreat!" ordered Khan, and all the subordinates stopped killing Axel. At this moment, Axel was immune to all forms of attacks and skills they could use to kill him again. Khan had also used up all of his tricks and skills, and if he wanted to kill Axel for good, he'd have to come up with a completely new, different, and bizarre way to get the job done. "Ha ha ha. There's no point now, Salvatore. I have turned invincible to all the means you could use to kill me," said Axel with a coquettish tone. "Don't be overconfident, dipshit. It's not like none of the previously chosen heroes hadn't selected death absolution as their divine ability. They still died anyway. I'll just have to be a bit creative and you're a dead man," said Khan, showing no sense of fear. "Looks like I have no choice but to use it," thought Khan, and deactivated Draco's armor, unsummoned Lucifer, and removed dimensional domain. At this moment, Khan was willing to go to the extreme after a very long time. Axel on the other end felt all of his physical strength of a peak 3rd stage saint returning as he too looked forward to a deathmatch with Khan. Shrill. An ear-deafening and soul-shaking shrill filled the 5 kilometers region as a massive burst of black and red aura filled with insurmountable pressure and bloodlust resonated in the surroundings. Even Vanessa felt like she was standing against a predator even though she wasn't the main target. Crack! Crackle! What the hell is this? Don't tell me Khan isn't a human either. She spoke after Khan's transformed figure was revealed as the dense black and red aura finally dispersed, and his new appearance came into everyone's sight. A gray-skinned man with long and sturdy black horns, each having 3 consecutive stackings of dragon, basilisk, and true demon horns in its being appeared in the middle of the battlefield. Pitch-black dragon claws, broad shoulders, and a ripped body of a bloodthirsty being flew firmly in the air. Most of his body was covered in black patterns and visible magma running through his veins, akin to a tyrannical demon. There were layers of basilisk and dragon hide, having wasteling white hair in addition. A red glow emitted from the center of his chest while two sharp fangs came out of his mouth as the man kept releasing a domineering and oppressive aura. Dark red eyes with yellow snake-like pupils in them glimmered brightly as this demonic being started at Axel, exuding his intense killing intent. Even Axel felt a sense of uneasiness because he felt like the being in front of him was no weaker than himself. Khan had decided to discard all of his previous methods and skills as he chose to decide the final victor with the good old-fashioned of fighting with pure raw strength. Because at this moment, after 3.5 years of gap, Khan was finally using the Azura mode. Khan removed all his previous skills, weapons, armor and battle modes just to start with a clean slate as he activated Aura mode after a long time. This was a form where he could mix and utilize the most effective and prominent bloodlines and their particular skills absorbed to this day. And now, a newly transformed and upgraded version of the Azura mode appeared in front of everyone on this battlefield. Was there a way to kill Axel using different combinations and techniques at this point? There could be a way, but the hero of fire had already received immunity against hundreds of such ways to die, and even one common factor was enough to waste their whole efforts just because Khan acted overconfident. Hence, he decided to use only new and different ways their crew hadn't used before because the clock was ticking and they couldn't risk waiting till any reinforcements from the church arrived. System, how strong am I with all the bloodline effects and physical buffs that come with them? Asked Khan to his guide interface. The host is now comparable to a peak 3rd stage saint because of the enhancements received from Dragon, Basilisk, Primordial Titan, Fenrir, True Demon and Invimarak bloodline. All the stats have been increased by 500% for 1 hour. Reported the system. Good. It's more than my previous expectations. I thought it'd give me a buff up to 3 times only. I guess the quality of bloodline from god beasts is indeed worthy of its reputation, he said to himself. Next, Khan diverted his challenging gaze at Axel and spoke loudly. Axel, you asked me to fight with you one-on-one before. Don't tell me you're afraid now, he said with a contemptuous gaze. This bastard. Do you still think you can kill me even now after I've turned invincible? Let's have it then. I'll give you the most horrible and gruesome death, responded the hero of fire with confident eyes. He no longer feared Khan or his group in the slightest because death absolution had made him invulnerable to everything Khan and his group could do. Axel also unsummoned his red and black armor since Khan was now also bare-chested. Both half-naked men with ripped and bulging muscles floated 2 kilometers away from each other. Crackle! Crackle! Before everyone, Axel's arms turned into bony claws and multiple white horns grew on his head and shoulders as he too activated his bloodline and received a buff in his physical strength. Boom! Boom! A black and red aura exploded from Khan's body, while a dark red aura exuded from Axel. Swoosh! Bang! In just a second, both chosen heroes clashed against each other, their clawed fists clashing against each other, sending shockwaves in the surrounding 1 kilometer radius just with a single strike. Axel's blood-red bony fist struck against Khan's black dragon-clawed fist as both gave each other a hateful gaze. Khan quickly grabbed Axel's left arm and pulled him closer. Crack! His fish made an uppercut punch with right arm and struck Axel's jaw, disorienting him instantly. But before the latter could even recover, Khan quickly squatted, swinging his left fist towards Axel's ribcage. Dang! Crack! Axel was thrown 1 kilometer away. Just a single punch from Khan cracked his ribcage and broke 2 bones while the sonic booms from the impact shook 2 kilometers of the decimated battlefield. Axel on the other end had a dislocated jaw, but soon, a surge of blood spread across it and started repairing and healing the damage at a rapid pace. So he too has rapid regeneration ability because of his bloodline. Well, I gotta get rid of it soon so I can kill him, thought Khan, and his figure flashed, appearing only a few meters away from Axel, who had put on a guard with spiky and bony arms. Swoosh! But before Khan could make another move, a bone from Axel's right arm shot itself towards Khan's head, instantly breaking the sound barrier. Khan tilted his head in time but could feel the strength and lethality from the spike. He just dodged in time. Axel appeared above Khan and made a joint fist attack. Flicker! Khan's entire figure flickered and he evaded this attack in a microsecond. Boom! Axel's body landed on the ground. A 500-meter-wide hole dug in the ground just from the impact of his fists that would have easily broken a few of Khan's bones had he not dodged it. Even a bystander like Vanessa could tell that every single swing and punch both men hurled at each other had the strength to destroy a mountain. This was nothing but a competition between raw power. "Are you blind? I'm here, you moron!" bellowed Khan as he looked down on Axel from the sky. Axel had bloodshot eyes and quickly lunged at Khan, shattering the ground below him as he jumped in his enemy's direction. Soon, another exchange of fists and kicks started. Each time a hit landed, the other party was flung 2 to 3 kilometers away from the impact. Crack! Khan twisted and broke Axel's left arm and headbutt him, sending him flying. Meanwhile, his claws had dug into the arm and a small as well as unnoticeable yellow liquid had spread from the tips of his claws. Huff! Huff! Axel repositioned his footing after getting thrown 3 kilometers away. "This bastard!" shouted Axel in an infuriated voice because although Khan wasn't killing him, he was still beating Axel like a toddler fighting against a special ops soldier despite having more strength than the former. But because of his anger, Axel hadn't realized what Khan's main intention was. The yellowish liquid oozing out of Khan's claw tips was actually the legendary rank monster Jormungandr's neurotoxin venom. Little did Axel know that during each exchange of moves, Khan was scratching him here and there and poisoning him. 30 minutes later. "Ora! Ora, ora, ora!" shouted Khan as he was beating Axel thoroughly because 10 minutes ago, the neurotoxin venom had finally affected Axel's regeneration ability as well as affected his movement. The neurotoxin venom wasn't made by some manufacturing company, rather it belonged to a legendary rank monster, a descendant of the god-beast basilisk itself. Thus, even Axel's bloodline failed to form natural immunity against it. Rip! Arg! Khan's dragon claw ripped apart half of Axel's face as the latter screamed in pain. Despite using several of his strength-enhancing innate abilities, Axel's nervous system no longer responded to himself while Khan was thrashing him with a grin on his face. Bang! Axel's figure clashed on the open ground after Khan punched him in the chest, cracking his bones again. Swoosh! Khan suddenly appeared in front of Axel's haggard and pitiful figure. He quickly stepped on the Hero of Fire's caved chest as the latter was choking on his own blood. "Don't worry, Sunshine. I'm not gonna kill you that easily. It's been a while since I have been creative in a fight. And you, I have plans for you," he said with a devilish smirk. Axel was breathing slowly because of the injuries that were no longer healing. He had an ominous feeling as he looked at Khan. "I heard all those screams of women begging for mercy and crying in pain. You said something about breaking your targets, didn't you? So allow me to give you the same fate," spoke Khan as he declared in a murderous tone. Because Khan was going to do something he learned back in Flavit City in his beginning days. And that was torturing people to death. A bustling city full of people was filled with noises of the populace going about their lives. Shopkeepers and merchants shouted to sell their wares while taverns and restaurants were full of customers. Clatter, clatter. Just then, the entirety of the city started shaking as tremors filled the surrounding, instantly vibrating all that existed in this settlement. Even the tall towers and stone fortresses in the vicinity were no exception. "What the hell is happening?" clamored thousands of people at the same time as they ran out to the open areas. Shing! An insurmountable pressure filled with majesty and dominance suddenly filled the surroundings and millions of people were instantly forced to kneel on the ground under a heavily oppressive aura. "There!" said a dwarf as he pointed towards the sky. Shriek! A high-pitched shriek of a massive bird-like creature spread and resounded in the entire city as a ginormous with majestic wings that spanned 4 kilometers on each side suddenly appeared over 5 kilometers high in the sky. It passed at the speed of lightning while a single flap of its wings created hurricanes, and almost the entire city was filled with strong gusts of winds that sent thousands of people flying here and there. Like a natural calamity, this two-headed monster appeared and disappeared in a matter of seconds, but almost devastated 20 kilometers of the region with the strong winds that it left in its wake. Yet, in the eyes of this 8 kilometers tall creature, None of it mattered because it was in a hurry to reach a particular place in the Vulcan. Over 40 minutes ago, Javi had finished his battle with 4 of the 8th stage saints, namely the 3 holy champions and the Pope himself. And now, he was rushing towards the eastern grasslands from the northern plains, to the other side of the empire just to save his daughter despite suffering from the backlash of forcefully using his bloodline. Yet he did not care for his pitiful stage but for his daughter who was at the mercy of the hero of fire. Bang! Only brute strength. No technique, spoke Khan as he punched Axel in the face, sending him crashing against a mountain peak. The whole peak cracked into hundreds of massive boulders and crumbled like a house of cards. Cough! Cough! Axel coughed out a chunk of blood after his pitiful and bloodied figure was revealed. Where did you learn to fight? Or a farm? Berated Khan, and his figure suddenly appeared in front of Axel. Crack! Khan raised his leg high and stomped on Axel's left shin, instantly breaking all the bones. Ergig! Screamed the hero of fire because of the unbearable pain. In the past 10 minutes, Khan was thoroughly torturing Axel as he broke the latter's arms and legs one by one. His fingers and toenails were ripped by Khan's claws, and the right collarbone was also shattered. And each time, Khan would antagonize Axel with slanders like a vindictive person, as if he carried a great hatred towards Axel. But Axel couldn't even fight back as his own body wouldn't listen to his commands because of the neurotoxin venom. Axel had immunity from Rudra's corrosive magma, which was an upgraded version of Jormungandr's venom. But it didn't mean that Khan couldn't use it to weaken Axel. And hence, without killing him, Khan was torturing him greatly by breaking his bones and body one by one. You think everyone is at your mercy, don't you? Spoke Khan with a disdainful voice. He then quickly grabbed Axel's head and both their figures flickered. The next moment, both of them appeared in front of Vanessa, who was surrounded by Khan's subordinates a few kilometers away on the ground below. Apologize, said Khan as he tightened his claw around Axel's head, making the latter bleed profusely from his forehead. I am sorry, said Axel as he mustered all the strength in his body. Now he understood why Khan was so furious with him. Khan had been torturing him instead of killing him. Axel often tortured women and girls after he raped them, and finally after he had his fill, he ate them. But for the first time in his life, Axel was on the receiving end. Axel had trampled on Vanessa's pride when he said he would make her his slave and plaything. And Khan had treated her like his friend. So he was taking revenge for her. Kill off this piece of shit. He doesn't deserve any forgiveness from me, said Vanessa as she looked down on Axel's lacerating figure, her gaze filled with contempt and fury. You bastard, bellowed Axel in rage. Suddenly, his right arm finally responded to his command during this rageful state, and without even wasting a second, Axel attacked Vanessa. Stab! Gasp! But before Vanessa could even react in time, Axel's claw had stabbed into something. But instead of Vanessa, Axel's claw had stabbed Khan, who appeared in front of her at the last moment. And the place his claw had stabbed through was Khan's heart. Ha ha ha! Laughed Axel as soon as Khan's figure slumped and his expression turned grim, as if being on the verge of death. Die, you bastard! Didn't I say you can't kill me? Shouted Axel as he rejoiced. Finally, out of pure luck, he managed to land a killing blow on Khan, and now the latter was as good as dead. But instead of losing the light in his eyes, Khan pulled Axel closer by grabbing his right shoulder. Stab! But this time, it was Khan who stabbed Axel in his chest. Suddenly, Axel realized that his claw had indeed pierced through Khan's chest, but there was no friction from inside his body. In other words, he couldn't feel Khan's heart at all. You know, Axel, there's a saying that we often tell our enemies in the world I came from. He spoke in a soft and kind tone. Khan then changed his expression, letting out a devious grin, and spoke in a benign and gentle voice. You bastard! Khan had his dragon claw stabbed in Axel's chest while the latter could only feel a hollow gap inside Khan's. For the first time in a battle, Khan was using one of the skills that came under dimensional law divine ability. The whole thing with Khan torturing and Axel was actually just a big distraction. What Khan wanted to do was catch Axel off guard and make him do something that wasn't precedent. Unbeknownst to Axel Lobthrox, Khan still vividly remembered two of the biggest loopholes of Death Absolution divine ability. One was that the user had to be prepared for and expect death. Death Absolution divine ability was an active ability that was directly dependent on the user's mind at the time of death. As long as they thought that Death Absolution was in active mode, the user wouldn't die. But if they're killed surprisingly when their mind is distracted, then it wouldn't work at all. 2. The invulnerability to a particular manner of death didn't last permanently. After a day gap, the received invincibility against a particular method of attack would vanish. Death Absolution was indeed a divine ability that would make you an immortal in a fight. But after a while you would be back to normal. Khan had his doubts that this divine ability was chosen many times by the heroes of different gods who came in the past. But the demon god still wasn't dead. Then it could only mean that it too had flaws and limitations that could be easily overcome by the opponents. These were the two main reasons why Khan hadn't chosen this divine ability back when God of Darkness made him choose. And now, using those loopholes, Khan finally made a decisive strike. "Do you know Axel? I have a creed," said Khan as he tightly held Axel's hand that stabbed through his chest. "An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth." "And," spoke Khan. "Rip." Before Axel could say another word, Khan ripped out a big pulsating red organ from Axel's chest and said in a grim voice, "A heart for a heart." Axel had a petrified expression because at this moment, he could feel the life force diminishing in his body as a big and wide hole in his chest could be seen. Death Absolution hadn't worked and now he was counting his last moments. How did it happen? What did I do wrong? Wondered Axel as his consciousness faded for the last time. The hero of fire died. A few minutes passed as everyone let out a sigh of relief because just now, the 50 kilometers wide isolation barrier started scattering, signifying that its user was finally dead. Khan, on the other hand, was sweating profusely as he grunted in exhaustion. In the final moment when Axel tried to kill Vanessa, he purposely appeared in front of her and allowed Axel to stab him in the heart. But at the exact moment, Khan used the remaining space force in his body and used the dimensional shift skill to send his heart inside the true dimension. Huff! Huff! Khan deactivated the Azura mode after the massive hole in his chest regenerated and he brought back his heart to the world of the living. He had almost reached the limit and soon, he'd be forced to undergo a weakened state after the time ran out. But now he could have enough strength left to escape. "Master! His soul is leaving his body," informed Armin. "Ronin!" quickly ordered Khan. Swoosh! An ethereal massive white orb with a bluish hue containing otherworldly energy that was sized as big as a house suddenly became visible to everyone as Ronin appeared close to Axel's corpse and activated the Soul Collector skill that allowed him to snatch away people's souls. But right before he could completely grasp and cover it under his aura, 5 different colored orbs covered under archaic runes came out of this massive soul and instantly shot themselves towards the sky at the speed of light. Khan and the others didn't even get a chance to react before they quickly disappeared into the sky. Damn it! Those must be his divine abilities that were tied to his soul. I didn't get a chance to capture them, spoke Khan. This was one of his main agendas when he asked Ronin to collect this soul. The host would be unable to absorb them anyway. Only a demigod has the ability to absorb divine abilities from the chosen heroes. However, there hasn't been a new demigod in the past 10,000 years. Informed the system. TCH. Still, I would have liked to try. Well, I guess there's no point being greedy since it would have adversely affected my soul in the long run anyway. Spoke Khan to himself. Master, I would like this for myself. Only I can absorb it here and given the size and quality, I think I'll be able to level up greatly. Spoke Ronin as his own blue and translucent aura enshrouding the soul tightened its grasp. It'll do more than it if I am correct. Well, take it. It's yours. Spoke Khan with a thoughtful face. Ronin was the only one capable of absorbing another being's soul and using them to level up. So he was the best choice among their group to use it. Khan then quickly activated ability absorption divine ability and surprisingly, he was done in just 5 minutes. But he had no intentions to go through the list for now because time was of the essence. Human, I want his body, spoke Rudra as he slithered from afar and gazed down at Axel's corpse with covetous eyes. For what? Asked Khan. Didn't I say that I needed a strong bloodline to mix and balance both of my draconian and basilisk bloodlines? The unique bloodline this hero of fire has seems just strong and capable enough to act as a perfect catalyst to bind them together. And once I'm done with it, I'll be able to take a humanoid form as well, explained the Voronir subordinate. All right, it's yours. We shouldn't leave behind any traces, so it's better this way if you could become useful later, said Khan as he heaved a sigh. He directed his palm towards Axel's corpse and used gravitational upforce skill to throw Axel into Rudra's massive mouth filled with thousands of pike-like teeth. Rudra quickly swallowed Axel without a second thought. Although his size was too small in human appearance, Axel's real size was 250 meters tall, and the amount of blood he had was enough for Rudra to work with. Finally, Khan then looked at the heart in his right palm. Arg! All right, let's go. He grunted and got up on his feet, but during his effort, Axel's heart got squashed under Khan's palm, and as soon as his body touched the shining white core inside, boom! But before Khan could even react, a massive black aura appeared from the center of his chest and moved towards Axel's heart, instantly engulfing it. Khan didn't even understand what was happening, but just then, the system suddenly gave him a notification that shook him to his core. Divine Key. Flame Scion acquired.